that's a magic number. Yes, it is. It's the magic number. Somewhere in this hip-hop soul community was born 3 names of me, and that's the magic number.
What does it all mean?
Difficult preaching is posthumous pleasure. Pleasure in preaching starts in the heart. Something that stimulates the music in a measure. Measure in the music, breaks in 3 parts. Casually see but don't do like the soul. Cause seeing and doing are actions for monkeys. Doing hip-hop hustle, no rock and roll. Unless your name's Brewster, cause Brewster's a punk. Parents let go cause it's magic in the air. Criticizing rap shows you're out of order. Stop looking, listen to the phrase and Fred Astaire. And don't get offended while Mace Dosey your daughter. A dry camera roll system is now set. Fly Rob stored under Daisy Productions. It stands for the inner sound, y'all, and y'all can bet that the action's not a trick, but show enough a function. Everybody wants to be a DJ, everybody wants to be an MC, but being speakers are the best, and you don't have to guess. De La Soul Posse consists of 3, and that's the magic number.
This here piece of the pie is not dessert, but the cost that we dine. And 3 out of every darn time, the effect is when a daisy grows in your mind. Showing true position, this here piece is kissing the part of the pie that's missing, where that negative number fills up the casualty. Maybe you can subtract it, you can call it your lucky partner, maybe you can call it your adjective. But odd as it may be, without my 1 and 2, where would there be my 3 mates past me, and that's the magic number.
What does it all mean?
Focus is formed by flaunt to the soul. Souls who form style gain praise by pounds. Comment on speakers who honor the scroll. Scroll written daily creates a new sound. Listeners listen cause this here is wisdom. Wisdom of a speaker, a dumb and a plug. Set aside a legal substance to feed them for now. Get them high off this dialect drug. Time is a factor so it's time to count. Count not the negative actions of 1. Speakers of soul say it's time to shout. 3 forms the soul to a positive sum. Dance to this fix and flex every muscle. Space can be filled if you ride like my lumber. Advance to the tune but don't do the hustle. Shake, rattle, roll to my magic number. Now you may try to subtract it, but it just won't go away. 3 times 1.
What is it? 1, 2, 3.
That's a magic number.
Yo, what's up? 1, 2, 3. And say, children, what does it all mean? 1, 2, 3. I would lie.
No more, no less. That's a magic number. No more, no less. No more, no less. No more, no less. No more, no less. No more, no less.
Anybody in the audience ever get hit by a car?
No more, no less.
All right, no water, mama.
No more, no less.
All right, no water, mama.
No more, no less. No
3 feet high, right.
No more, no less. That's a magic number.
Hello and welcome to the live HomeBhoys phone-in show. Of course, we played my favourite song at the minute. 3 is the magic number by De La Soul. There was meant to be a pre part to that where Charles Green talked about the 3rd division, but time constraints did put the skids on that one. So welcome back, and there is much to talk about. Competitive football is just around the corner, thank Jesus, and we have got plenty to talk about, as we always do. I think this has probably been the summer that there's been most to talk about, and as usual, to talk it out with me, we have Paul Larkin. Paul, sir, say hello.
Good evening.
And we have the one and only Jason Higgins.
How you doing, guys?
We are, without the drunken interruptions, invaluable contributions of David Harper tonight, as he is having trouble with his computer.
God but not forgotten.
God but never forgotten. Oh, listen, I go to sleep and dream about him. He's chasing me through Tesco. And Tesco's Abrax. So, we should just get cracking. I have a list of stuff here that I have to remember, and as usual, I haven't got Harper alongside me. See, I'm always quick to diss Harper when he's not here, but when he's not here, I'm a bit like Tom Hanks in Castaway. You know what I mean, I'm talking to my guitar, so it's a bit strange for me. So I've got a list of scribbled words on a page here that I have to remember, and God knows I'm bound to balls up the whole thing, as Raymond has already had 3 bets that I'll have 3 massive cock-ups in the middle of the show. So let's hopefully we can keep it to minimal 3. Pardon me. So, as to where to start, normally Harper would just choose that in his forceful way. I'm not quite that person. So, I'm going to throw... What should we talk about first? I think we should just stick to Celtic first instead of going for the Huns. Let's talk about friendlies for a minute. Let's go to you, Jason. In terms of friendlies, in terms of what you've seen so far, I know pre-seasons are a barometer for nothing. But, I mean, what have you made of the pre-season so far? I mean, who's looking the fitter? Who's looking the livelier to you?
I'm probably the wrong person to speak to here, mate. I'm not motivated whatsoever by pre-season friendlies. Training fixtures, I mean, I've travelled to a few of them abroad, but it's been more for the crack than anything to do with the game, and they just don't do anything for me. First couple of games in Germany, we looked very ordinary, but at the end of the day, that's their first day back for the holidays. Against Ajax, I was half drunk watching the game, but the less said about that, the better. Slightly better against Norwich, and I expect them to be slightly better again against Inter Milan on Saturday, but I don't take any... I always think back to the centenary year when I think it was Arsenal, we lost 5-0 at Parkhead before it, and we're nightmare, and then we went on to win the double. So the Wembley Cup, we done nothing, and then we won the league, and then we won the Wembley Cup, and we done nothing. So it's just, it doesn't do anything for me, and Celtic fans are getting up my arms about it, and they're looking at things in the team, this guy's not doing this guy's not doing that, and then basing it on, I'm really worried about the season based on some pre-season friendlies. Doesn't do it for me at all. I just can't get myself motivated. I didn't even go the other night to the Norwich game. The kids weren't badgering me to go, and I just took a chance and come home from work and didn't bother getting in. And I didn't even feel bad about it, and I just can't get myself going. I think they're just gradually getting fitter, and I expect to see us play slightly better against Inter Milan. But Inter Milan will probably be terrible because this will be their first game for the pre-season, probably, or thereabouts. Their season starts after ours, I'm sure. But I suppose all your guys in America can tell you, because every time Celtic go over and play there, we're absolutely terrible. But I've had my way. I'd go over to the Cliftonville game on Saturday rather than the Milan game just for the crack. But
that'll be an experience, I tell you.
I know, but it's just I've not really gave you anything at all here to go on, haven't I? Not to build on, but I don't want to judge anybody at all. So I think what we can say is the players that we've lost, right? We've lost Leuven, he's away to Zaragoza. We've lost Big Mastronovic. Kelvin Wilson's come in. He's come up for a lot of flack. I was never his greatest fan, but I'll give him a chance, but I don't think he's a great player. So I'm pretty worried about the centre-half situation, but it's nothing to do with pre-season friendlies or anything. I'm just genuinely worried about that in the European. I'm not worrying about anything in Scotland, because I think we could sell 5 players and still win the Scottish Premier League, I would think. But no, I'm a bit worried about the centre-halves, but we've got Helsinki next week, and let's face it, we've got a settled team from last year, so that team last year should be good enough to take care of Helsinki. Whether we do it or not is another thing, but I think we should have enough to take care of them. Then who we get in the final qualifying round for the Champions League, I don't think Celtic will begin out and signing anybody before the Helsinki game. I think maybe they'll wait and then see if we're obviously getting another crack at the Champions League. But no, better get on to Mr. Larkin. Tell us what you think of the pre-season.
I'm glad you've condemned the friendlies, because you've totally quashed my Twitter rant that Harper put me on the other day, because people were overreacting on Twitter, going, "Oh, we're going to get humped. We're going to get, it's terrible. We can't beat Norwich. We can't beat this people." And people just overreact to pre-season friendlies all the time.
Exactly.
I know, but I mean, it gives you something to just laugh at, I think, really, you know.
I know.
Paul, yourself, I mean, the reason I like pre-season friendlies is because you get to watch Celtic again.
Yeah, me as well. No, I'll still watch it. I mean, I'd watch them if they were over the park. Me and my wife went, it was her 22nd birthday, and I took her to Holland for her birthday, but she didn't realise Celtic were there on pre-season tour. But You know, that was years ago, and I went over to the Feyenoord tournament. I've seen Celtic loads of times in pre-season. But I like the away trips, because then you're not that gutted when we lose, because as we inevitably do every time we play in foreign shores. But when it's a Champions League game and that, you go to the game and the game gets totally in the way, having a good time, because you're absolutely gutted at the end of it. But in the pre-season friendlies, you're not giving a damn. You know, you're just there having a crack, a few beers with the lads in the sun, and it's excellent. But when the real stuff starts and you're in foreign shores watching Celtic, you just know the game's going to put an absolute downer on your trip.
Well, see, my first European experience was Barcelona 1-1. So I thought that's what it was always like. Anyway,
I
Paul.
went to Nou Camp, the 0-0, we knocked him out. That was excellent as well. But I can assure you, it's nothing. I'd seen Celtic 5 times abroad before we scored a goal. So I've seen us scoring a goal.
You were determined.
I know.
Paul, yourself. I mean, as we all know, pre-season friendlies really don't count for anything apart from getting to see players that you wanted to see again and a team you want to see again in the new jersey and how the team lines up and whatever, you know. But I mean, is there anything you've seen so far that's made you think he's looking good, or I'm glad he looks fit?
To be honest, Joe, the player that's impressed me most was actually for Hull on Saturday and Sunday, which was Tony Watt when he played for the under-20s. He looked head and shoulders above everybody in the whole tournament. In terms of the actual first team, I mean, I'm with Jason. You'll know if we've had a good pre-season at 9:30 on Wednesday night after the Helsinki game, you know. It's all about fitness, and that is it. Now, you know, I'm quite happy to see that. It's all about fitness, and the results don't matter, and that. It does peeve me off a bit when they charge money to get into friendlies, you know, because it is just a... I mean, all right, the game was on the season ticket on Tuesday, but Norwich changed their entire team at half-time. You know, so I'm not too sure why anybody should be forced to pay for a training match, but we all know we'd turn up for training matches. I think that, as Jason said as well, the things that we're looking for again this season are centre-half and maybe another striker. You know, whether we beat Ajax 4-0 or lost Ajax 4-0 doesn't really matter, we're still going to need them. And at the end of the day, I can't really remember too many pre-seasons where it was like, oh God, you know, looking back and, you know, glowing terms at that, because nobody really, you'll not even remember any of these games in 2 or 3 months from now. So it's good. It was good to get back to Celtic Park on Tuesday. You know, small crowd there. I think that, particularly midweek games, you know, home game friendlies are just not appealing to really anybody. You know, you're in different climate now, procession since the Depression. People are going to pick and choose their games and stuff like that, especially when it is game that. And particularly when you've got 4 home games in a row, 2 which are friendlies, people are going to look at that and say, well, you know, maybe just go to Helsinki and Aberdeen, might see it in Milan, whatever. But I was kind of half pleased with the performance on Tuesday. You know, the signs are there. We had Woodwork a couple of times. You know, Samaras looked decent. Rodney looked fit for once. Things like that. But when you look at the players that weren't even playing, Alexi Brown and Ledley and that, you know, and Stokes and people like that, you're not going to look at anything and say, oh, that's definitely going to be going through the Champions League, or definitely no, just because of what you've seen against Norwich. So, to be honest, I like pre-season when it comes because it gets you back to football, but now I'm just really ready to get back down to the good stuff.
See as well, Paul, the one guy that did stand out, I suppose, is the young Czech boy, young Twardic.
Yeah.
We said last game of the season, we couldn't the league down at Rugby Park, you know, he came on as a substitute, but he plays with his head up in the air, you know, plenty of confidence, and I think just there's something about him, looks really good.
Touch is fantastic. I mean, I thought it was Neil Lennon made a point of saying he'd been promoted to the first team squad. Now, Dylan McGeoch's been involved with the first team squad the whole pre-season, and he's not really came out and says no, but to Twardic he has, and I think that's probably one of, you know, because he's a foreign player and he's kind of having to send a message out to him saying, right, you're in the first team now, you need to perform like a first team player. And I always think that football's an instinctive game, and if you look at the instinct Twardic showed at the Kilmarnock game with the wee 1-2 with Joe Ledley to put him through, there was a few glimpses of that on Tuesday as well, and I think that if he can continue to play without that fear, then we'll definitely have a player on our hands.
Yep.
Yeah, you're right. I like the look at Chris Commons as well, the Norwich man. He looked fit, which was a plus, given the end of last season. And he looked like he was hungry, you know. And the one player who also, 2 players sort of not stood out, but maybe sort of stood up and go, that's different from them, was McGeoch. I thought McGeoch looked great. and I thought Lustig looked pretty good.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I didn't even recognise Lustig when I saw him. I'm standing, especially on Tuesday, I'm standing there going, Christ, that's Charlie Mulgrew's got some tan. And then the next thing, I see he's got 23 on it, and I know Charlie Mulgrew's 21. I thought, who the hell? And then, Ken, you didn't want to turn into somebody and say, who is that? I was like, oh my God, it's Lustig. But I think you're right, Joe. I think he did show a wee bit more than he has, previous. But as Jason said before, like things like the Wembley Cup, you would have thought Chris Gillan was going to win the European Golden Boot after that.
I know.
And there was guys saying that when we beat Tottenham in that tournament, and I was in a bruiser after it, talking to Tottenham fans, and they were talking about a quote like Messi. Wow, Christ, he's in, but I've not seen anything like him and all that kind of thing. Christ, how do you ever lose a game? So, well, he doesn't play like that every week, and it just really doesn't matter with all these performances. There's so many guys that can look great in pre-season and day nothing. It's probably similar to guys that probably look great in training every week, and then the next time it's somebody else that puts the ball in the net. It's one of the things that I think just get onto the real stuff, basically.
How many of these players do you think are in the shop window? I think Darryl Murphy's being put out there, so somebody will buy him.
I hope so.
Because he looks like a lost soul. And even in friendlies, you're kind of like, oh, mate, come on. You know what I mean?
We've got two strikers who I believe that if you say to Celtic supporters now, what kind of striker are we looking for? Somebody who's big, can header a ball and all that kind of thing. We've got two guys that should do that, in Murphy and Rasmussen, and nobody is punting them for a chance this season, which kind of shows you how bad they are.
Yeah, it's true.
I know.
We'll stay up. Sorry, Jason, go ahead.
No, carry on, mate. I was just going to talk rubbish.
Here, that's what the show's about. But we'll stay on Celtic. We're going to go to the Huns very, very soon because there's obviously there's loads to talk about. But today's open letter from Peter Lawwell to the Celtic fans. What's your take on that? Is it just kind of formality for him? Do you think?
Well, I think it's. I sometimes think Peter Lawwell gets a wee bit wrapped up in himself with this kind of stuff. He didn't. Sure, you're the same, Joe, Jason. Any guys you meet for Celtic didn't need reminded of the history, how long we've been gone, what we. I think Celtic supporters, if they can afford to buy a season ticket, they'll buy a season ticket. Now, the reality is, we're in the worst recession since the 30s. We had a 4% increase in price, and nobody got refunded for the Rangers games that they paid extra for and are not going to get. Now, I think it's been quite noble that Celtic fans haven't made an issue of that, because I think people might have said, you were the one that wanted them in the league, blah, 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 that's fine. But, give the fans a wee bit. I've got 4 season tickets in my immediate family, and I've spent £umpteen on strips for them, and spent money on other people's behalf to get strips to go to America and all that kind of thing. So you've got to, I think, formalise that a wee bit better when you're saying that to people, because we're all reading it and saying, well, how much more do you want for us here? No, I don't think anybody is asking Celtic to go out and spend fortunes. Nobody's saying anyway. You're just saying, strengthen the team year on year on year. But it can't just be the supporters have to give us money. You have to just keep giving us money. You say, well, you've got a board of directors here supposed to attract investment. Peter Lawwell said it himself. We took the brand around the world and we ended up getting a sponsor for Duke Street. So that's fine, but if you're turning around and saying, this is what I would say to Peter Lawwell, if you're turning around and saying we can't afford to buy these players now because of this situation, we can't afford to spend this money because of this situation, then eventually, Peter, somebody will say we can't afford to pay a chief executive in this situation.
Yeah, it's true. It's a good point. It's a very good point. Jason, yourself, what do you think? I know what you're saying, Paul. Being reminded of history and asking the fans for more money. But do you think this is kind of Celtic are now? We as Celtic fans and all Celtic supporters, we are now the leading light in Scottish football, both financially and in terms of football as well on the pitch. So do you think this is kind of Celtic preempting a downturn in finances by asking for as much money up front as they can possibly get?
Well, sorry, Jude, I think that it's quite an incredible situation, because you could be getting in a month's time, you could be getting a massive windfall of money.
Yeah.
There's also, I understand, like Peter Lawwell, you can't work miracles, and you can't squeeze money at people that haven't got it and all that kind of thing. The one thing that just peeves me a tiny bit about this, more than any other part of it, is the fact that we got a bonus of 6 games in Europe last season. That should be reflected, you know. That should be reflected in a budget. Even if £1 million to say to Neil Lennon, you know, well, you've got that now because we got into Europe and we really didn't expect it. So, because I can understand. I just feel like we've never really emerged for the thing where it feels like the board are just quite happy to be in the Champions League, and that seems to have shifted to, well, if we get there, it's a bonus. You know, I'd like to just emerge for that. I mean, if we've got a standalone policy, let's see it in action. Let's build a European side. I'm all for bringing young players through, and all the rest of it. I have to say, for Hull on Saturday and Sunday, there wasn't many I would expect to step into the first team anytime soon. So, you know, if we've got a standalone policy and we're going to break out for all this kind of old firm nonsense now that they're dead and all that kind of thing, that's fine. But just be a wee bit fair to the fans.
But and in terms of like buying players, I mean, the one thing I will say on the plus side for Celtic in terms of Peter Law, the one advantage he has got is that I think Celtic as a football club and as a team are slightly ahead of the curve in terms of having to buy players, because we don't really need to go out and spend big money on players. We've managed, either by hook or by crook, to bring in some genuine talent at a fucking unbelievably young age. You know what I mean? And what's the average age in the Celtic team now?
23.
I was going to say 24, but it's there or thereabouts.
Is there any other team that has that?
No. What I would say as well is, I think Peter Law's got a bit of a difficult, well, whether it's him or whether it's the board, I think they're in a bit of a difficult position because, right, we're playing Helsinki, so every Celtic player worth anything that knows anything about football, Celtic should be able to beat Helsinki with the team that we won the league with last season. That's without a shadow of a doubt. It doesn't mean to say we will beat them, but see, going out and spending $5 million in 2 players, that doesn't guarantee you beating them either.
Yeah.
And see the thing is, see we are spending $5 million on somebody for England, or $5 million in anybody. What kind of wages is a £5 million player going to demand? And what kind of success is that £5 million player going to bring us that the existing team at the minute won't bring us? You know, what are they going to add to us? Because let's face it, we've got a team at the minute, and I thought we actually performed quite well in Europe last year, apart from obviously the Sion game, but they cheated, they get put out, whatever. But we've got a team that I would expect to perform pretty well in Europe. I would expect us to have I would hope we would get into the Champions League. If we didn't, I would expect us to have a good go at qualifying for the group stages, because bear in mind, when we get into the group stages, we get put to the lowest ranked team last year. So we got a harder group than we would have got if it had been put through, you know, if we'd won the game. So I would expect Celtic to, with the team we've got at the minute, to have a decent run in Europe. Wouldn't even expect us to get to any finals or win in any tournaments, but I would expect us to have a decent run and sort of compete. Maybe get to the last 16 Europa League, or get to the Champions League and maybe qualify out to the Europa League for there, and maybe with a bit of luck qualify at a Champions League group. That would be my sort of what I would be looking for. 2 £5 million players aren't going to change my ambitions for that team. So why should we get and spend that money?
I wouldn't spend that money, but what I would be looking to do is to be prepared for that. Now, if we've got a scouting network in place, I'd be looking to say, like, okay, so who's out of contract at the end of the summer? Now, our name I'd throw in right away is Olaf Melberg, right? He's out of contract. He's 34-year-old. We've got a young defence. He's a warrior. I would say somebody in him right now, 2-year contract.
I would have no problem with that, Paul. That's the kind of player I would go for, especially Scandinavians like that.
I mean, I think you can afford to give guys like that £1 million a year if you're not paying any fee for them. And I think that I don't think there's many. I mean, seriously, we can all argue about the merits of the team. I don't think there's many people would argue against the fact that the one thing that we're missing in this side right now is experience. You know, I mean, there's a guy, because I think what you're saying is 100% right, Jason, about the fact that it's a bit like you see it often in American sports and all that kind of thing. Good teams that are used to winning, and then they go into a playoff stage or whatever. The hardest game they play is always the first one, you know? And then, because they're just like, Christ, we could view it before it even starts here. And then once they get that, they say, no, this is our rightful place. And they build. And I think that's what you've seen if you look at the performances against Sion last season, which were garbage. And then over to Athletic Madrid, stood to Udinese and that kind of played really well. I mean, Udinese away was one of the best Celtic performances I've seen in a long time away for him. Yeah. So, to me, it's not. I'm not asking Celtic to spend £5-6 million, nothing like that, because I agree, there's no guarantee whatsoever. But John Park was guy who scouted as a Gary, Kyle and that kind of thing. If there's 2 or 3 of these gems out there and it'll cost you 600-700 grand, I think it's worth a punt to go for them.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. I'm 100% there, and that's the kind of guys. I mean, when you look at the players we've got Wanyama, we've got Kyle, we've got Izagiri. Well, Key, I'm not a big fan, but at the end of the day, if the figure's getting banded about what we're going to get for him if we sell him, it's been a great investment. So we've got all these guys. We've got Joe Ledley for nothing. We've got these guys that Adam Matthews. So we've got a cracking young team. I think it's really good. But we've also got some rough players as well. We've also got we've got some great centre halves. I think Rogney's really good, but he's injury prone. When Yama can play at centre half, but so for the good, there's been a bad. I'm delighted we've signed Fraser Foster. I mean, that to me that's been a great signing. So I would like to do more for the fans rather than the playing side. I would like them to reduce prices to get in. I'd like them to fill the stadium, give tickets away to kids at schools and stuff like that, because we're going to have roughly 10,000 spare seats at most home games this season. So I would like them to do more about that and give tickets away to people that can't afford it. Have some scheme. Because the fans the Cairo Foundation and stuff like that do. They get people that can't afford season tickets in. Why does the club not do it? Because at the end of the day, people like me that buy my season ticket and I get my kids' season tickets and stuff like that, I'm not going to ask them for a refund if they're giving people that can't afford it for nothing.
No.
I want, and obviously, if you're giving people that can't afford it, there's going to be some people that sneak through the net and get a free ticket and stuff like that. Well, fair enough. But see, as long as you get loads of people that can't afford it into the stadium, loads of old guys that maybe years ago would always have went, do some initiative. I don't know how you can get in touch with them, but with internet these days, try to bring some of the old fans back to the stadium. Try and get the place packed out. For every adult goes in, they get a child in free or whatever, up to the first 2,000 adults can take a child in free and then they stop it. Something like that. Just bring, if you come to the ground early, you get in free, or do something, but give something back to the fans.
That's a smash.
Don't make it take all the time.
That's a great idea. I mean, like, to redirect all that Rangers money, well, not all that Rangers money, the Rangers match money from the season books into an initiative like that is a fantastic idea.
Aye, I mean, they do it in American sports. I mean, I know the Mets and the baseball, they'll have like the first 10,000 through the gates get a free T-shirt, a free cap or something like that. So the first 1,000 adults that come to pay in are allowed to bring a kid in free, because they know there's going to be a couple of thousand spare seats.
Yeah.
I mean, I was at Starks Park 2 weeks ago, tonight I think, or last night, and they were playing in Ross County in a decent friendly, and I only went because I just wanted to ski them any kind of money I could afford, because of the stance of that Turnbull Hutton guy. And this is something I've not seen for years. I couldn't believe in my eyes. At the turnstiles, they had an unemployed gate. So people showed their brew card, and they go in for half that.
Brilliant. That's fantastic.
And that was extended to pensioners and students, and then a child gate, and then there was an adult gate. And you just think, I do think that, I've said it umpteen times, I've been to Firhill, Falkirk, I've been to Spartans, all these grounds recently, and I tell you, the SPL fans that haven't been to any games like this in a long time would be absolutely shocked at how well you get treated at these games in comparison with how you get treated at SPL games. For Christ's sake, it wasn't even last season that Tandis were getting practically strip searched going into the ground.
Yeah.
And they're giving you anything. I watched Partick Thistle, the tournament at the weekend there, and after the first game, Partick Thistle Celtic, Chris Erskine, who was one of the best players in the park for Partick, watched Airdrie Everton in the stand with the fans. He came in, he signed autographs, he took photos of that, and he sat and watched the game with the fans. And it means so much to the fans, but you can't. There was I met a guy with Stephen Monaghan on the game on Tuesday, and he was saying that he remembers the days at Celtic Park when Frank McGarvey and Davy Plummer-Aiken used to fight each other about what dance they were going to on a Saturday night. Well, I'm going up to Aberdeen, it's a great night up there. No, I'm going there. No, you're going to Dundee, that kind of thing. We need to get back to that. If they're good enough, ask us for money. We'll give everything we can, because I think everybody does give everything in, quite frankly. But let's give them to me back. Send these guys up to Aberdeen, send them to Belfast, send them to Dublin, and get them to see what it means to the support, because I tell you, we're all hypocrites. There's players. I was never a Peter Grant fan as a player ever. I met him at a dance and I couldn't say a bad word against him. You know, it's just total hypocrite because he was nice to me. So, you know, get them out there and show them, you know, gear that wee bit back. It'll cost you nothing. And it might make the players realise, you know.
See, to be honest with you, we've got nobody better at the helm to actually install that in the players than Mr. Lennon, because see all the do's and everything that I've went to over the years, he's the one guy that he'd stand there and sign autographs all night. Mm-hmm. You know, and I've been to loads of do's, and like his fellow teammates for years gone by, they would duke inside doors and things like that to avoid the guys that obviously paid £100 to sit at tables to sign their autographs, but he would always walk right through the door and take as long as it takes to get back to his seat. So he knows what it, because he is one of us, he knows what it's all about. But no, see another thing that's hacked me off a wee bit, and Joe, I might add that Harper has texted me there just to tell the punters that they can all phone in.
I know, he told me. I was waiting for a break to bring that up. Jason, thanks for it. I'm glad Harper had so much fucking faith in me that he texted me too. And I told him I would do it, and he texted you anyway, because it obviously wasn't going along his timeline.
Hey, I'll shut up for a minute and you can announce what they need to do.
Folks, we'll just pause Jason Higgins there for a second. You can't escape in. We've gone past the half-hour mark without mentioning escaping, but that's just the way it goes in this show. Raymond, that's my first fuck-up. Yeah, you can Skype in. HomeBhoys on Skype. Just call in, interrupt us, bring up whatever topics you want, as long as it's about Celtic, about football, and we will let you talk in. But normally what we do is we just bring you into the conversation. Pardon me, it's a burp. And we don't say anything, and eventually we'll get to you. Just listen to the conversation. But anyway, that's that done. Jason, carry on.
Cheers, mate. No, one of the things that I know it's a bit of a rankling point for a lot of the fans, right? Like, my two kids have got the opt-out Rangers tickets. So they did the £50 season tickets. So they didn't get the Rangers game. So I was happy with that. I wasn't going to take them. That was my day out with the boys. Get a few beers. But so I'm in the auto renewal. So my kids have got this £50. I don't know if they'll miss the Dundee game now or whatever, right?
No, they don't.
So that they don't. Do they get into everyone now?
No, they get into, if you paid £50, you get into every game. If you paid 129, you're getting into every game and you're not getting a refund.
And this is it, mate. And I think that's shocking.
It's disgraceful.
You know, and the thing is, write me a letter and say, right, we're really sorry, but what we need to do is we need to increase you to £80 each. Do you know what I mean? And say the ones at 129, we need to reduce you to £80 each. I'm not going to crack up. Do you know? I'm going to fair enough. The guys that's paid £129, it's an absolute disgrace. So Celtic, you need to treat your customers better. You know, because see in this day and age, customers will leave you. Because I think we're like a dying breed of Celtic supporters, like our age group, run about the mid-30s to the mid-40s. So we're maybe about the last, I'm not saying the younger generation, some of them are absolute diehards as well, but it's something that we've been doing all our life, and it's because we had a real innocent feel about the ethos of Celtic now when you're growing up, because let's face it, when we started going to the games, the players were still getting a comparative normal wage compared to the workman in the street, maybe 3-4 times what the normal workman in the street was getting. Now it's unbelievable. You know, the players nowadays, the vast majority of them could not give a damn about the support, you know, and that's just for major football clubs the world over. You know, we can kid ourselves on that they're like us, but they're not. Because, but at the end of the day, fair play to them. I'm not down crying. They earn the money and that's it, you know. But I think everything goes in cycles, and I think their wages will come nearer the working man in the not too distant future. That would be my prediction. But for Celtic, with their customer base, the guys that's paid £129, if they don't complain, seemingly they're getting nothing. Seemingly if they complain, they get a £30 voucher for the shop or something. I don't know. But it's sad. You hear all these rumours or whatever, but as far as I'm concerned, I've only been charged £50 for my two kids' season tickets, and mine's 500 or whatever. But it's terrible for the way the guys that have paid for them, they're getting charged £129. You know, it's not on.
Well, I was told a story by somebody on Tuesday. I'm not going to say any names, but this guy is a season ticket holder, has 3 season tickets to Celtic Park and has done for the past 8 years, he said. And he wrote Peter Lowell a letter in the summer and said, this guy, he's not a rabble-rouser or he's not like us shouting the odds or anything. He wrote a letter to Peter Lowell and said, I do not want a direct debit for my season tickets taken out the bank until the Newco thing is sorted and I'm ensured that they're in the SPL.
So did Apple.
So what happened?
I did as well.
So he's sitting in his house one night, the phone goes, and it's Peter Lawwell.
Oh, you're joking.
And this is before the SPL vote had even taken place or anything like that.
Oh no, they just took mine.
So Peter Lawwell was like, listen, he said, obviously we've no saying anything as a club, I can't say anything, but, just trust me. And he kind of buttered them up and all that kind of thing. And once Peter Lawwell had finished that, the guy turned to him and says, can you tell me one reason why I should trust you? And apparently Peter Lawwell couldn't answer him. So these things, I've heard all the same things from people inside the club, that there's been a barrage of complaints about this whole concession thing, and I was, unfortunately, I was disgusted to read a blog about trying to defend it, saying it's easy to sit for me or you or anybody else to sit by the computer and say, no, you should just get on with it, What if their family doesn't get fed that week, I'm not the one that's going to be feeding them, I'm not paying them, so I'm not going to sit and pontificate and say, oh, you just got to like it or lump it. Celtic have got to, I've been through a fiasco the last 2 weeks buying strips for Graham and the Red in America because they get shafted with the customs fees, send them over. And at first, when I bought the tops on July 10th, I was told I was getting them on September the 9th. And I was just kind of like, hey, that's 2 months away. And then they were like, well, you need to phone Kitbag, it's nothing to do with us. So I ordered them for you. Nah, well, it's Kitbag that sends them. So they gave me the details to get in touch with Kitbag. I got in touch with them, and they never got back to me. So finally, after 3 weeks of basically fighting with them, they were like, "Oh, we'll just give them out of our own stock," And it's just like, it's all right for me because they've got guys that cuss like by the boss because they know we're always going to go back. But if I'm a relatively new into it and thinking, "Oh, I'll go for this," and I get treated like that, I'm just going to walk away.
I know, and it's just. What do you do? It's like their customer relations is absolutely terrible. But it was the one bastion that they could treat us like shit for our life and we would still be there. But I think people are a bit more ruthless nowadays, and money's tight. Things are. Let's face it. I've got loads of mates in Liverpool, and they go and watch Everton all the time. And I was with loads of them on Saturday. They were up at Motherwell. Everton's adult season tickets start at £443.
Mm-hmm.
Kids under 11 are £95 and the junior tickets are £149. You're at the sort of, to pardon the sort of pun, it's the sexiest league in the world. And it's like...
I think that's a great point because it's like, even if, and this would apply to Newcastle, even if you're not a die-hard Everton fan, you're going to be seeing quality players rolling up there quite often for that money, I know guys that do that in Newcastle who buy Newcastle season tickets. They're not that into much in Newcastle, but they say they're watching all these teams come up every week, getting value for money.
But here, listen, if you bring that up with Celtic, say if you propose that as some sort of comparison to Celtic, you know what the response is going to be like.
Oh yeah, of course, it's
TV money,
and
I know, and it's just like they need radical thinking. If this isn't the season for radical thinking, I don't know what is. The opportunity that we've been given here. This has been like a Hans Christian Andersen story. This, do you know what I mean? Fucking season here. If ever there was a time for radical thinking and for big changes, it's this season.
Well, Neil Doncaster, after being basically wrong on every single situation that's happened since February the 14th. Came out last week and says, well, maybe it's time for some thinking outside the box. And it's like, it is, but not for you, Neil Doncaster. You need to be inside the fucking box because you have mucked every single thing up and put the game at the brink of collapse. People, there was a thing they say, Peter Lawwell's way down to London there to negotiate the Sky deal and whatever, this kind of thing. And people think, why is Peter Lawwell there? He's not even on the SPL board, Because this Doncaster needs a babysitter. You didn't want him going down there and being like, right, this is what we'll just accept anything in that. Because all he's interested in is getting a TV deal on his CV again. Stuart Regan, the man who was going to change the SFA and he was going to do this and modernise it, he's had to delete his Twitter account.
Has he deleted it? Yeah.
He's deleted it because he can't handle the criticism. And the amount that he was getting, it's frightening, so... radical change, radical thinking. Let's do it because the fans are right for it.
Let me put some ease in there, right? Maybe you're going to cover this in a bit, Joe, but talk about TV deal and everything, right? When you mentioned Doncaster and whatever, right? So see if we could have a vote by all the Celtic supporters, right? I'm talking about most of the match day going Celtic supporters and whatever. But see if we could have a vote and we could actually say, right, what would you rather have? Loads of live games on where we're shafted and we're playing it every hour in the day or the weekend, or a right jazzed up highlights package what you used to have when you were a kid? Because see how the argument they use about sponsors, sponsors pay for this because you're on the TV. Does it matter to them if it's a highlights package or it's on live? Because tell me this, say Celtic's playing Dunfermline, or they're relegated, Celtic's playing Kilmarnock.
Mm-hmm.
Right, we're playing Kilmarnock. Any other fan, the other teams in Scotland, years ago Rangers would have watched this, or last year because they had a direct consequence of the result, but most fans of other teams in Scotland wouldn't watch us. Mm-hmm. Like for instance, I would watch Hearts, Hibs, Dundee United, but if Kilmarnock was playing Motherwell, would I watch it? Nah. Mm. So how many Motherwell fans would watch us playing Kilmarnock? Very few. Mm-hmm. But what I'm saying is, see if we have a jazzed up highlights package that's on for an hour and a half on a Sunday afternoon, like Scotsport used to be, every football supporter in Scotland's going to be sitting watching that. Yeah. So surely if you've got advertisement of that game, you're going to have more eyes watching it than you would if it was just a live game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So surely a highlights package is just as valuable for sponsors that are sponsoring round about the stadium, as a live game, and probably more so. So why do we need live football? Because the Sky give us an absolute pittance. Why don't we just tell them to chase themselves?
That's actually not a bad idea. I mean, Jason, I remember when I was a kid, we didn't have the money, and as a kid, my parents finally didn't have the money to bring me over to Glasgow for games, And I just sit by the radio on a Saturday afternoon, fucking nearly hanging out my window, trying to get a Scottish reception. You know what I mean? Just to listen to either live commentary or just updates.
Can you remember back then they weren't allowed to do the commentary the first half live?
Yeah.
Remember it was the Dick Francie and all that? They just used to. What was his name? Boy Francie.
David Francie.
David Francie, Jimmy Sanderson and all that. They used to just cover water polo and stuff like that the first half, and then because seemingly it was because they reckoned if they gave you the first half live commentary, people wouldn't go to the games. This was their thinking back then. Mm-hmm. So it just shows you how it's come on now. But now we just accept live football as part of our life. But why don't we have radical thinking? Get rid of it. Get a massive highlights package, jazzed up, something that's interesting for the kids. Plus they're seeing other teams, and then they're learning about the other players. Because let's face it, see like Dundee players. How many Dundee players could you name just now, Joe?
Claudio Caniggia.
Exactly. Gavin Reid.
Didn't Maradona play for Dundee one game?
The guys on the Carlo Shamrock podcast this week were saying that the Sky Sports alone's costing, I think it's £22.50 for next season. It's gone up, and that's obviously to pay for the English Premiership deal. And as you say, like, how many games will you actually see Celtic on? So that, and you've got to pay £22 a month for that, and that's basically what, £240 a year on top of your season ticket, which is about 5 cents a year. And it's we're getting squeezed left and centre. And for what? So that the games that they'll be showing would have been Celtic against whoever that we're going to be at anyway.
Aye.
It's just it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. ESPN there, they haven't even released a schedule for any
and then the highlights package in Scotland is some clown in the studio on a Monday night at 10:30. I mean, you're saying yourself, what thought goes into that?
I know. I mean, by that time on a Monday night, you can hardly remember who you played on a Saturday.
All the kids are in their bed. The kids have got school in the morning. It's their next generation that need to start watching the games and watching all the teams in Scotland and getting into the Scottish teams instead of everybody running about with English football strips on out in your street.
Can I cut in there, lads? We've been joined by Beyond the Waves and Stephen Monaghan, Vincent the Parrot. Hello, lads.
This is Hans Christian Andersen.
Hans Christian Andersen.
To speak Ben Pottery.
Okay, hello, Hans. Welcome to the Brothers Grimm show. Hello, Stephen. How you doing, sir?
Yeah, you hear me okay, guys?
I can't hear you dead on.
My Wi-Fi's good, just like the wags of Glasgow, you know what I mean? Dundee's get more wags and it's a bad time.
I want to go in order of calls. Graham, what did you want to talk about, mate? You just come on there.
Well, I think, just listening in this most recent conversation you're having now, I think Jason's spot on with trying to think outside the box for additional revenue streams. And when Sky is not going to serve us with a rightful and a a correct valuation, for the Scottish football rights, we need to step out and offer our own football rights, our own broadcasting rights. Like, you see with the Olympics now, they have apps, where you can watch the entire thing, any sport you want, for free. And I'm not saying, we make it for free, but, we have avenues like that we need to explore. And I think that there's so many opportunities that Celtic has right at its fingertips that it really could exploit and with great success, especially with a worldwide support. Obviously I'm an example of that. There's many examples across the U.S., Australia, throughout Asia. That's a way to sort of unify the opportunity.
Well, Graham, let me ask you this, right? And I'll ask you particularly. Good friend of ours, Seamus website iCeltic has an app, correct?
Correct.
Right. Why don't Celtic have an app?
Well, they do. They just brought one out, but it's fair play to them that they brought it out. But it's nothing more. It provides no added benefit than if you were to just go to the CelticFC.com, the club site. So, it's nice and it's more accessible, but in terms of expanding the content for supporters, it really doesn't do anything any different.
Here's something then, Graham. What about if we had someone like me in charge of Scottish football instead of Regan and Doncaster and Co, and we brought out an SPL app similar to MLB TV. So we brought out an SPL app that gave you access to every game live in Scotland, only from there was a blackout zone in Scotland. So basically you can have a blackout zone. Anyone within the signal within Scotland can't pick it up. So it's an SPL app. You pay a tenner a month or something like that, and you get perfect coverage of every SPL game. And it's jazzed up with all the highlights. It's got excellent stats and stuff like that. And we've got some quality commentators. Would you buy that?
Hello?
Hi there.
Graham.
He's buying it now.
Graham.
That's
He's searching for it now.
I think he ran. Did he run away?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now, mate. Yeah, did you hear what I said there?
Yeah. And my response is, in a heartbeat, I would purchase that. You could charge a tenner a month. You could charge 20 a month. If you're going to offer all of the games, I think that's good value for your money. And in addition, I think that it would wind up raising more money than the pittance that Sky or ESPN want to throw at us. For whatever reason, you mentioned Doncaster and Regan. For whatever reason, they accept these terms, and it's a miscarriage of their responsibility.
No,
Absolutely. I've never seen a worse deal negotiated in my life. I mean, it's absolutely pathetic. You touched on the fact that time and again they are wrong with every one of these facts, with every issue that they've projected with regard to this entire debacle. They've been wrong. I mean, they're so far out of their depth that they can't even see daylight. And and the opportunity is here for Celtic.
And see, the thing is, this is our chance to put something into Scottish football. This is our chance to try and run Scottish football. Because at the end of the day, we would be putting the money back in. See, we split it 12 ways. See this SPL channel. Because at the end of the day, there's going to be thousands of Celtic fans worldwide. But you're not telling me there's not thousands of Aberdeen fans worldwide, thousands of Dundee United fans worldwide. Motherwell must have loads of expats. There must be guys at every corner of the world that support every SPL team. Maybe not in the numbers that Celtic's got, but the bottom line is, see if it's an SPL app and it's actually offered, because I buy the MLB TV one. The MLB one's like, I don't know, it's like seven quid to download the app, and then you need to be a subscriber to MLB TV, which is about $100 a year. But that gives you everyone. I mean, I'm a Mets fan, so it's 162 games you get at the Mets, but I can watch every 30 teams. I can watch 162 of their games.
But
for $100, then it's your seven quid for the app.
Yeah, but
so, I mean, if this gets produced, by the way, Joe, we want copyright in this. It's my idea, and they better give me a cut of it.
Absolutely,
it's your idea.
Jason,
and you should be heading up the SPL with ideas like this. And this gives us the opportunity to cut our own deals. If Sky and ESPN are just going to throw a pittance our way, and they're not going to give us a fair shake, then let's create our own opportunity here.
Exactly.
Make it more accessible. Raise more money in the process, and probably make it cheaper. I mean, everybody wins in that scenario.
But I mean,
And the optimum word here is opportunity. Because this is a great opportunity for everybody in Scottish football to make a difference. We don't have a team now that's steamrolling and buying everybody for every corner of the world and paying them 40 grand a week wages, and everybody's trying to keep up with them. The days are gone. You know, we're back to grassroots here, so let's make the best of it.
But I mean, and sorry, I mean to cut across you there, Paul. Sorry. Isn't the sort of the problem here in terms of finance, in terms of getting all this out there? The Sky deal, this is my conspiracy head on. Is Doncaster in the pocket of the financial hierarchy of Sky then? You know what I mean? That can be the only reason to keep going back to Sky. Because, I mean, Sky would cost nothing if the guy at the top didn't have to make a complete fortune.
I just think we've got so many incompetent people at the top of our game.
I agree with that, Joe. I think that Doncaster found himself in a position of weakness while he was negotiating that on the heels of the Setanta deal going tits up. You never want to find yourself when you're negotiating in a situation of weakness. I think that he came out in the press repeatedly and exposed his hand, so to speak, in terms of pointing out the reduced viewership and how hard it was going to be to find something that could replace Setanta. Well, you know, if you're Sky or if you're ESPN, you're looking at that saying, I'm not going to give this mug any money. You know, I'm going to get him down to the lowest amount of money that I possibly can because he's a sucker. And that's exactly what happened.
But the flip side of that is that there's a 700,000 Sky subscribers in Scotland. So you get your balls out there and you say to them, well, listen, you don't want to show Scottish football, that's fine. But you find out how many people subscribe to Sky in Scotland just to watch football. And it's happening. I mean, there's guys I know, and it was again on the Carl Shamrock podcast, all the guys there have unsubscribed to Sky.
I'm going to phone up this week. My wife have been talking about
I'm actually
going to phone up this week and cancel it.
I am too.
Listen, Paul, if you were in charge of the negotiation, we wouldn't even be having this discussion because we would have gotten a fair deal. That's the type of swagger that needs to be thrown out there when you're negotiating these sorts of things. Neil Doncaster, you know, you can tell just by looking at him, he's weak. He's a little mouse. He shows up to these things, and he just takes whatever he could possibly get. That's the problem here.
He's a mouse with a fucking massive square head.
He looks like Paul Paxton in Weird Science.
He does.
Somebody needs to turn him into a frog.
I'm probably one of 5 people that got that joke, Paul.
I know. And we're all over about 50.
Oh, Jesus. He does look like Bill Paxton in Weird Science. Anyway, sorry, I cut across Paul there a minute ago.
Stephen was trying to say
Stephen was trying to say something.
No, how you doing, lads? No, just obviously I met for the game on Tuesday night. It was just to see did MD know if Sevco or something was in with the Green Brigade, because they had their own paparazzi Strathclyde police unit, about 5 intelligence officers just taking pictures of the guys for the whole 90 minutes.
What a bunch of perverts.
Well, they're obviously a huge threat to society, you know, people who sing at football matches.
No, apart from that, it was just to see, obviously, I mean, the BBC should really think about moving up to Dundee now, because the only journalists we can trust in Scotland, Spence is up in Dundee. They've got 2 Premier League football teams. I mean, Glasgow's just a waste of time now, apart from the East End, isn't it? The only other thing is, I mean, what I was saying about the Green Brigade, I mean, it's this, as a Glaswegian, it's quite descending to see that your football team's been chastised by the police force, but we're friends from across the water are having protests every week in the heart of the city that 70 folk are turning up at the Olympic things. You know, I mean, I don't know if you get, I'll throw something out there. Do you remember Mike Reed's show, Run Around?
Yes.
I'd like to propose getting Chick Young to host it and call it Hun Around. Take the fucking Olympic rings down in George Square and getting John Brown to say who owns the deeds. To see where it's going. You know what I mean? It's fucking the city. And all I've got is people in old Retroford Lanark tops running about. My brother's taking salt and sauce at the fucking Celtic games with these chips. North's over, guys. But apart from that, everything's good.
Actually, do you know what the interesting thing about John Brown is? I think, and it's been completely glossed over, I think John Brown said the most interesting thing in this entire summer, which was that he basically got out there that Charles Green does not own Rangers and that Ticketus own the whole thing. That's what he keeps going on about when he says, show us the title deeds, because he knows that Green doesn't own it. He knows. this is why they got Charles Green got the access for $5.5 million, because he didn't buy Ibrox and he didn't buy Murray Park. They're owned by Ticketus, and they're just sitting there waiting for it to unfold to get paid. And this is why. Right. And Brown keeps saying it over again. Show us the title deeds, and that's the meteor that's coming towards Sevco, because there's two things I've been the entire scenario with the Huns. The two things I'll never understand is, one, why they just let their club die and sat back and done nothing about it, and two, why the fans have they tried to form their own club. It just baffles me.
But see, when you mentioned John Brown, no, Paul, be what he is, right? I mean, the guy is totally up front, right? He's a heed the ball. I mean, I was actually in his mother's house. I never realised where it was, but I was having dinner one night at a girl's house, a bottle of red and some lasagna, like Joe style.
You only dating John Brown's mother, were you?
Mrs. Brown here. You'll be on Mrs. Brown's boy soon.
I've got a fish here. Come on.
It was an exclusive penthouse down the Salt Market. Anyway, it was the days of the old Nokia mobile phones, and the girl's phone started vibrating on her table, and it came up saying "bomber" on it. So obviously, being a civil servant, this is just after the 9/11 stuff. I'm starting to worry that the phones went bomber. So she took a call and went yep, and she hung up, and I went that, and she went, oh, it's John Brown. And I went, fucking no chance. And she went, yeah, this was his mum's house, she passed away, and I rent it off him now. And I said, what, bomber? I said, I thought that was just his nickname. He went, no, even his own family call him that. But I mean, that guy's been chastised because, alright, he's, I suppose it'd be like Peter Grant down outside Parkhead, whereas guys like Alan McCoist have been nothing but snide during this whole thing. The damage he's caused, people's getting death threats. Alright, I'm not a fan of Regan. He doesn't deserve to get death threats over it, sort of thing, you know what I mean? Yeah, but the longer this goes on, I know it's been 5 or 6 months and it's been very drawn out, but at least now we're seeing how badly our media is in this country, how bad a person Ali McCoist actually is. Because none of them will have any credibility. I mean, Chip Young, maybe 2 weeks ago on the Saturday afternoon show, was talking away, and they were talking about somebody quite rightly suggested a playoff game between Dundee and Dunfermline. Somebody, and I think it was maybe Spence or whatever, went, yeah, we'll have it at Starts Park. Chip Young come up, well, why don't we have it at Hampden? And they went, well, regionally and communications-wise, it'd be better to have it halfway between the grounds. And then the bold chick came out with, oh, we could have it at Ibrox. And it was just a deadly silence. And then they just humbly went, well, that was a joke.
Well, see, the one thing as well, I don't know if people are aware of the fact that Turnbull Hutton at Throwers, one of the things that's been driving him on more than anything is the fact that when McCoist got the panel named, and it included Eric Drysdale, who was on the Ray Throwers board, Eric Drysdale's wife at that time was seriously ill in hospital and was getting death threats in hospital, which was driving Eric Drysdale, to the point of a complete and utter breakdown, and that's what was fueling Turnbull Hutton against Newcombe and Alan McCoist in particular. And these guys, I hope these guys, like Turnbull Hutton and like what Clyde who stood up to this, are no forgotten in all this. Yeah. Because everybody in the SPL included, they were just going to roll over and let them in the first division.
Yeah.
And they never, which was really, really good when they could have just took the money and just said, "I'll stuff it, we'll just go for it and that, But I believe we've got Josh Gaffney just phoned in as well there.
Sorry, I completely forgot about Josh. It was wrapped up in your speech there, Paul. It was great stuff.
Hey,
Josh,
Joe, thanks for taking my call. I'm going to run. But great show, boys. I'll talk to you soon.
No worries, Glenn. Take it easy, mate.
Cheers, mate. Yep. Bye.
This fucking mouse is broke again. Sorry.
Josh, sorry, how you going, mate? Alright.
I was actually just going to butt in when Paul Larkin was talking about really who owns Ibrox, and if you cast your mind back a few months ago, what headlines were they talking about when there was Miller and about to take over Rangers? The headlines was that they were speaking to Ticketus. They weren't speaking to HMRC. Ticketus' name kept on coming up and up in all these articles.
Yeah.
Saying, Miller's got to come up with a deal with Ticketus, and Green. I don't know if Green got linked with a deal, but there's quite a few of the people who look at take over Rangers, that are headlined to be talking with Ticketus.
Yeah, well, Paul Murray kept saying that from the get-go, that they had to get Ticketus on board. They keep over and over again, Paul Murray and the Blue Knights repeatedly says we have to get Ticketus on board or there's no chance. and then Ticketus were on board, and then it was all nonsense, and then they weren't on board. But it's obvious that Ticketus are in the position whereby, they gave Craig White that money, and they've taken Ibrox and Murray Park as security, and they're just sitting waiting on BDO to go in and strip the assets, and that's when they'll get paid.
Is it possible that Charles Green's just trying to railroad the Rangers fans into buying season tickets off him, and then him renting out Ibrox and Ticketus over a payment deal?
I think the extension of that, Joe, is that's obviously what will happen with Ibrox, is that somebody owns it and they'll rent it back for a couple of £1 million a year. It's a licence to print money. I think that what Green's kind of MMO is to get the club up and running again, and then sell it off in a share issue, and he'll make far more money than the $5 million that they've laid out because of that. And you'll get it in the media. It'll be the same lazy shite sorted out about, it'll be like a Barcelona style club, one man, one vote. Aye, but that vote will cost you about $10,000, and that's how it'll go, and then they'll probably raise 10, 15 million for that, and then they'll realise after it's done that Charles Green will walk away with a lot of that.
But all I'm saying here, right? In terms of media, in terms of society, in terms of football, the way Scottish football runs, the the ripple effect, you mentioned butterfly effect earlier on, Paul, to me, we were talking off the air. You could use the same term, the butterfly effect of what's happened throughout, not just Scottish football, but throughout Scotland overall. Do we not sit on the edge and the precipice of a really unbelievable and unexpected opportunity to completely change an awful lot of things? And all I'm seeing is other people on the side of Rangers trying to patch things up so they look the same as it did before.
Yeah, I think what Jason was saying earlier on, so many opportunities knocking right now.
Yeah.
But we've spent the whole summer hell-bent on saving Nuco.
Yeah.
It was just one lie after another. It actually worked out it was downright lies, because there was no way they were that thick to believe that kind of stuff. But see, interesting, like you touched on earlier on, see about the Scottish press and the media and stuff like that. The Rangers fans are now, guys I work with and everything, they are totally realising that that's who stitched them up more than anything. They are realising that their best friends were their worst enemy at the end of the day.
Yeah.
The guys that didn't want to shaft them, the guys that stayed loyal and true and all that, they just realised now it was just totally, their loyalties were totally misguided. And if they had been more up front and doing their job right and wanted to shaft them the same as they were shafting us in '94, they wouldn't have been in the nick they were in. They would have got together and done something about it. But up until the last minute, there was still hacks, guys that have got a public platform were telling them they were going to be all right, and they believed it.
Well, there's that mad Lego who, a year ago, Craig White was the saviour and all that kind of thing. As soon as they realised what Craig White was doing, the first thing Lego did was delete every bit of praise he ever gave Craig White on his blog. And I'm sure there are many journalists that would love to do exactly the same now about Murray and all this and all the grand schemes and all that, because the great thing for it is that we have got a horrific press, and we do have younger guys. it's amazing how many guys are now following golf. It's incredible. But we've got younger guys
funny,
who are golf's a great game ever now. But the younger guys who are hungry and they're not interested in propping anything up. They just want to get in. But the old guard have completely lost any bit of credibility they ever had. And people, people now. You mentioned guys like Traynor, Jackson, and Billy Dot. They don't even give them the time of day now. When you hear anything they're able to say, it's just like, sorry, you're a proven liar, and we're not interested. And that's one of the great things that will come out of this. And hopefully, we might get a question in media, and a media that actually understands that their job is to report events, not to cover them up.
Paul, did you see that thing with Stefano? I saw a tweet. I followed him on Twitter for a day or no. Did you see the thing he put about that he reckoned that various journalists for Red Tops in Glasgow who write near the Clyde were guests of Craig White 2 weeks before in Monaco, 2 weeks before the takeover?
That wouldn't surprise me. They were definitely Craig White's guests at, and the name escapes me, the big Indian restaurant that's on the motorway across for the Hilton in Glasgow, run by a big
Cooey.
Aye.
Like Biffy were in there?
They were all in there at the guests of Craig White. And then after that, there was probably 2 or 3 of them who, because I think the call at the time was it was Succulent Lambuna, But the call at the time after that was that 2 or 3 of them maybe probed Craig White a wee bit too much. So the next time I had a press conference at Ibrox, certain ones of them weren't invited. and then the Herald got banned, and then the BBC got banned, and all that kind of thing. And it's like you read crime books, you read anything about criminology. If you're committing a major crime on a weekly basis, you don't want anybody questioning you.
But see, when we look about transparency and over this, I'll play the devil's advocate. I've got my cousin's boy's 17, he's an old co-fan, and he went, "Would you reckon, Stevie?" And he's not got Twitter or anything. And I said, "Listen, don't put it, you're talking about, it's working class guys, whatever they are, there's no decent man somewhere." I went, "Don't put a penny into anything of it. The magic word for me in this whole scenario with the press, Rangers, whatever, has been transparency. Now, what's ever happened to the Rangers Fighting Fund? When Live 8 was on, they could put up on a screen how much money was in it. Up. There's no, to my knowledge, we know about looking their pages, but is there anywhere saying how much is sitting in the Rangers Fighting Fund? And apart from the pitch getting relayed where they had their Skins football game the other day on it, where's that money going? You know what I mean? I met a boy at the game on Tuesday night, and he works with a couple of Blue Noses from Northern Ireland, and these guys were putting their £2 bonuses into it.
Where are you talking about? I've never heard of that place. Joe, have a word with him.
I'll tell you what. See, I think what I think is we've all misunderstood the Rangers Fighting Fund, right? We all thought it was to help Rangers fight back. What it actually was is what they did was to put all the money behind the bar, got pace, and started fighting. That's what the Rangers Fighting Fund was all about.
Because I think just a paid for grand on it went on fighting the SFA in that court case.
A massive,
and this is the same court case that they're going to have to accept the sanctions for, or no get a membership of the XFA.
Aye, the Fighting Fund have cost them signing players for 2 years, about $4 million.
The Fighting Fund was run by Follow. Certain individuals on their threads have been deleted continuously with people asking for the stuff that they're supposed to get for it, rosettes and stuff like that. And we're not going to cast any aspersions, but I remember a Father Ted episode where the priest talked about resting stuff in his account. So I think that's probably where your Fighting Fund is.
But there's been no, the press, there's absolutely, as you say, Paul, there's nobody actually chasing this story down. Look at all you, I think Jim Spence's on holiday, but the ones that were pregating stuff every 2 hours about the latest, Stephen McLaughlin's backed off now. There's high-rise talks being held somewhere, and there's no interest in it.
Do you not think that they've been punished enough? That's some statement they give out when they do it.
I swear to God, Jason, that was like the Nuremberg Steps in 33, that one, they measure McCoy's, wasn't it? You're missing was the drum roll.
I know. Do you not think consequence, maybe consequence of your own actions, maybe should come into it?
Paul's probably better qualified. Paul, maybe these newspapers now, surely there's got to be sports editors, and the Herald's included in this, probably the Scotsman know as much. There's got to be guys getting these stories the green tick in the box to be released, and they're signing their papers death warrant, as Real Radio's found out. They took Mr. Johnson for a year, and that's him gone now.
Yeah, I think I mentioned this once before. There's a major Sunday newspaper had a meeting about 6 weeks ago where sales had gone plummeted in that, and this is a paper that pretty much ignored the Rangers story. And the kind of few guys that I know, young, bright journalists, hungry, no real bias towards anybody, were like, this is what we should do, we need to embrace social media, we need to get bloggers, we need to make a great website, let's get interacting with the fans, show our presence online, that kind of thing. And that was all completely dismissed to give one of their main sports journalists who retires in September. Their answer was to just give him a weekly column. And in this weekly column, every single week without fail, the guy has just basically said that Rangers are the ones that are guilty, it's the rest of the SPL. And everybody should just leave them alone and all this kind of thing, So something has to dawn on these people soon, because there is, I know journalists who get really pissed off. They listen to this show and they get pissed off when people say the media, because they think that includes everybody. And they'll say, well, no, I've done this, I've done that, and all the rest of it. But there has to be a collective responsibility that if I was a journalist, and I'm not sure if there's etiquette or no, and Jason or Joe or whoever was putting all this crap out like Chris McLaughlin was, surely you have a word with them and say, what the fuck are you doing? You're making us all look like half-wits here. You're just making yourself look like a paid employee, Sevco or Charles Bean or whoever. And that's the way, there are journalists who will probably say that, I've got as much to do with Jim Traynor as you have. It's like, fine, but the guy's still in your profession, probably in the same union. Surely you've shared the room with him every week for however many times. Surely 2 or 3 of them got to turn around and say, but the more intelligent ones have got out, and they've got out and they're covering golf and whatever and blah, 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 blah. And, the media, as much as Scottish football's in a transitional period, the media certainly is as well.
Yeah, I said to you on Tuesday night, Paul, about it when I met that Grade 1 referee last week. I was telling you about it all, that the referees have had one meeting over this, and it was just to discuss that when the Sky money goes, their wages go. And they're oblivious to Regan just floats about, they have no interaction with him, and Doncaster's, basically as you guys were saying, he's like rolling out of Grange Hill, wee bit of 80s throwback there. He walks down the alleyways to like boos and hisses, everybody's like, what the fuck's he actually doing here?
Oh, here, by the way, Stephen, if you remember, Roland's best friend was an African girl, and you pronounce his name Roland.
What? Roland. I want to help you, Roland, stealing his crisps.
Oh, fuck me, we're all old.
The boy who played him was Greek, actually, I think.
Aye, that's right. Erica Mufasa or something like that, his name was.
I just hope nobody's going to call Roland a chocker. He's like actually like Rio Ferdinand did because he had a white pal. He's like,
Right, well, here, listen, tell you what, right, if the Sky money is so important, right, if all this money coming in through TV is so important, and if it all goes, if we lose it, right, if Scottish football loses it, and there's no infrastructure in place to replace it, I mean, who's going to prop up the people who are dependent upon it? I mean, is it anybody's responsibility?
No, you've got to have a business model, Joe. And if your business model, in any business, if you're dependent on one customer, then you're always in danger. You're always one day for folding. If you're how many businesses have went to the wall that they were waiting getting paid for one supplier? Yeah. And that one went bust, and then it was a domino effect. So if you've built your club round depending on, at the end of the day, Dunfermline have got relegated, are they going to go bust? No. So any clubs that go bust, it's their own fault. But they need going bust and what happened to Sevco, or the old Sevco, what happened to them and going bust is two entirely different matters. I think there was major criminality going on there, and whatever they were up to, this is a different ball game. If you're going bust because of a couple of £1,000,000, then I just think we need to cut our cloth accordingly. And because we are still trying to compete with England and the Sheikh's money and the Russians' money and stuff like that, and Rupert Murdoch's money, and we can't compete with that. We need to realise that, see Celtic paying guys 20 grand a week, that shouldn't be happening in the years to come.
Yeah,
we need to stop this.
One of the things that came out since we were all last on air was, and I still laugh at this, is that Stefan Klos in 2002 was the most highest paid player in world football when he was Rangers because of the EBT. And the second highest paid player at the time was Zinedine Zidane, a year level of the scale. Highest paid player in world football, Stefan Klos, because of the EBT. That's just mind-boggling.
Can you mind the pre-season that the Huns were wanting to play 3 teams? Mine did a team for the Scottish Premier League, did a team for the domestic cups, and did a team for Europe. Mine, they all lined up. They had 3 different strips on, said they had 3 teams, and you're like, what the fuck was going on in their heads?
Well, you're talking about egos that when we put 6 goals past them, they went out and tried to spend 20 million quid 2 days after it on De Boer and John Hartson.
See, the thing is as well, see when they were buying like the English national team, and like the Gaza and stuff like that, they won the league in the last day against Aberdeen.
I know.
The last day. I mean, they're saying Celtic's going to have the League One by 40 points this season. I don't see it.
No, neither do I.
I don't see it at all.
I think this could be one of the toughest seasons we could actually face.
Yeah,
because the pressure they're under.
Yeah,
and you say Dundee United got off to a flyer, right? You're talking about the buzz that would be around that young team. Because remember, Hearts weren't a great side. They were not a bad side, but they weren't a great side until like 1986 when they started getting that. They get this inner belief that they could do it, and then they went on this unbeaten run. Because the season before and whatever, it wasn't as if they were chapping the door, just getting beat. They weren't just getting picked. I don't know, what did Hearts finish in 1984 and stuff like that in the league?
Almost bottom. I mean, but see, the thing about that is, right, if you look at last season the season before, where the last time the Huns won the league, that's had a great run for about November to January. They won every game on the bounce, including beating Rangers. Then they came to January, and in 3 out of 4 games they played us and Rangers twice, and they lost 2 of them, and that derailed them. That's never going to happen to them again. They're only ever going to face us, and they'll look at that and say, well, this one game on it, even if we get beat, we're still on track here. But the reality is, all these teams that wanted to win the league outside of Celtic and Rangers had to play us and Rangers 8 times. And that's a really big ask. I mean, a baseball comparison would be, American League East, Yankees and Red Sox have been strong for a long time. Now, you've got 3 other teams in there, Toronto and Baltimore, especially, and Tampa. They're not good baseball sides, but they can hardly ever make an inroad because they know they've got to play Yankees and Red Sox 18 times a season or whatever. And so, if you remove one of them, right away, surely teams are going to think, you know what, are we starting a run here, blah, 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 anything could happen.
Aye, I agree with you. And see, the thing is, I hope anything does happen, and I hope, I'm not saying, you want Celtic to win every game they play in, but I don't want to see Celtic winning the league by 40 points every season. Definitely not. And then when the cold months come in and stuff like that, December and things like that, if you're 30 points clear of the league, you're not going to be sitting there freezing your balls off. It'll be very little to play for. But I don't see it happening, and I see it being a positive thing. But I don't. Obviously, we spoke about it earlier on. These people that want Celtic to go out and sign top class players, and get your head out your arse. That's not going to happen. We need to maximise on the players that we've got at the minute, and see guys like Wanyama. When I know it's paper talk like Man United and that, looking for them. If Man United want them, they put the money up, have them. Mm-hmm. And then get the money invested in the youth. But there's loads of opportunities here, and I'm quite excited in seeing the Tannadice revolution, as you want to speak. I thought Dundee United were brilliant last year to watch. Thought they were an excellent team to watch, and a lot of good young players. I would love to see Aberdeen getting good again. I would love to see them coming to Parkhead with big crowds and stuff like that. I mean, they were the days. I mean, the mid-80s, they days were brilliant. He played Aberdeen and Dundee United. And Hearts they get the full Rangers end, all right. They never filled it, but they used to bring 10,000 fans. These guys are still out there. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be different.
I'm down for the season because all the sort of I'm the kind of person I feed into negative bullshit and just buy it because it suits me. So I was watching the Norwich game the other night, and I put it on. I thought, I wonder if deep inside the back of my head, I might not get as excited watching Celtic now. And then in the first chance game, I was like, oh, fucking out of my seat. And a friendly, and I was like, nah, that's the end of that. You know what I mean? So I'm ready to go.
See, the thing is, Joe, there is the danger. You've got a load of Celtic fans. I mean, I don't know about you, Paul and Joe and whatever, Stephen. I reckon our core support at home would be about between 30 and 35,000. I would say against the Rangers and obviously that you can get your 50,000 or whatever, but I would say about 30,000, and you'd see it throughout the years. I even think when the Lisbon Lions were winning 9 in a row, towards the end of that, the sort of crowds tapered off a bit. But so say that's our crowd. Most of these guys are totally just up for going to watch Celtic, and that's it. But we have got a load of people that they'll turn their back because Rangers aren't there.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, go ahead. Jason, see the point you made earlier. I mean, the excellent point you made about the tickets have only been sold, obviously, because Rangers been out the game and all that. Why not give every primary and secondary school in central Scotland, for Greenock, for Leith, tickets every week for the best pupils of the school, Catholic, non-denominational, Muslim, Jewish schools, and get all the wains at Parkhead and brainwash them like the Green Brigade said?
I mean, I wouldn't have put it like that, but
you were doing well. You were doing so well, Stephen.
You think of the PR you would get with that? There you go. There's 4 tickets, a teacher and 3 kids, pupils of the month, go to the game,
and you sit them in with the Green Brigade.
Yeah, one of the empty directors' boxes.
One of them's getting a drum roll.
Hey, on, Stephen, I've got a better idea. Why don't I get some loose foster kids, right? Throw them in with the Green Brigade. Anybody fancies take them on home? There you go. No?
Yeah, you talk about the director's box or no. I mean, the director's box on Tuesday was empty, and so how can you just say to phone up 25 season ticket holders, say, fancy sending the director's box tonight, Just to make people feel good about the team,
Just magical stuff, and then every week take 40 fans in to see the team. The team comes out and sees 40 fans, in the director's box, right? Change things, get things different, just change everything that we've done before, change it.
Yeah.
Tell you
Basically,
what.
you guys are talking about Sky on the subscription. Do you think everybody in Scotland has to buy a TV licence? Why is Alan Hansen getting chauffeured around London, basically getting £1 million wages, and we can't even get that? I said to Paul on Tuesday night, me and my old man used to go to the game, get a few bevies, Rotherland, get the bus back to Castlemilk, 10:30 every Saturday night, BBC One Sports Scene, and you get the games on. Now, surely entitled, there's enough people in Scotland pay their TV licence, surely we're entitled to get our football the way every team in England does, including the nationwide leagues, the Championship League. You might have to stay up to midnight to watch it, but you'll get it on.
Yeah.
And you'll get it repeated on a Sunday morning, whereas we get nothing.
Aye, true
I think Alan Hansen's being chauffeured around for his own safety. Oh, sorry. By the way, we've been joined by David Harper.
Right, I've just been going through the archives, Joe, right? And I can take you back to HomeBhoys podcast number 41, right? And Joe, I'm not going to name names, but your co-host came up with an idea for an SPL channel and an SPL app and all this kind of stuff. Back in ESPN and Sky Sports Lab. And another member of the panel, who will remain nameless, but shot that down in flames and said there wasn't enough fans and there wouldn't be enough demand there. And suddenly, your co-host
Radical changes, son. Radical changes.
Your co-host's absence tonight, the man has tried to steal my whole idea. He's wanted to make a cut on this app with the SPL. What's going on, Joe? What's going on in here in my absence, man?
Listen, we're going to have to call in a legal team. I'm thinking Duff and Phelps or something.
I'm ready to swear the Third Amendment here.
What's that? Here, you may as well swear. What's it, the 10th Amendment? What's that? Stupidity?
Sevco HomeBhoys are there in Wishaw, like.
Listen, I'm not part of this, know what I mean?
To be fair to Davey, I texted him the next morning after they did say it in Show 41 saying, brilliant idea. I'll bet you 100%, but I guess I didn't want to.
He knows you even know what show it is, you psycho. Show 41.
Here, Jason, I guarantee you, Stephen, WhatsApp Harper, and Harper didn't know.
Hey, listen, that's all called in to say, lads, and just say he's had a great show. Keep up, Joe.
Thanks very much. See you later, Harper, right?
Yeah.
How'd I hang up?
I'll do it for you.
You've got the controls now.
I was hoping he'd riff there so I could go down and grab a beer. Anyway, where were we? I was lost there now. That totally threw me off my track. Too much. Alan Hansen. Yeah, he's. Anyway, I was.
I think Josh just wanted to say something.
Josh, mate, I forgot you were there.
Well, you got on your point first.
I've had a very, very long day. Sorry.
On you go, Joe.
I was just basically talking about the subject of competition in the SPL. I know there's no really anyone that's sort of apparent yet that's really going to step up, but if a team like Motherwell has a good campaign in Europe this season, then the season after that, I think that's really where someone can kind of step up. If Motherwell, for example, has a good season in Europe and gets himself a few million quid.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you're right, Josh. But I think people who are thinking like us, right? People who are thinking, okay, we can actually advance the Scottish game now that this anchor of cheating has been taken away from it, right? But it's not going to happen this year, right? And at the end of this year, if the likes of Trainer are still spouting their pish, right, you're going to have to put up with an awful lot of "I told you so." See if Celtic romp the league by 40 points. And a lot of teams complain about financial difficulty. You're going to hear a lot of "I told you so." I mean, and I think that's the next step. I think this is a very long process through Scottish football. I think it's maybe 3 to 4 years before we see the fruits of not having Rangers.
Definitely.
Yeah. Definitely.
Have we got to look at the prices? Obviously, no, this season it's too late, but teams like Kilmarnock struggling to get 3,000 season ticket holders. Surely they should bite the bullet, get them in one stand, and say to Celtic fans, £10 a ticket, fill the ground.
Yeah. That's a smart move. Kilmarnock, they even said that on, was it ESPN or Sky last year? The title party, that A great move by Kilmarnock. You know, a great financial move.
But I said to Paul as well, I mean, Leeds United's a wonder case. I mean, why a game against Norwich have we got police helicopters? You know, the Norwich fans were in the club shop. It would have been a nice wee touch to get them a voucher for a coffee. I mean, we drove off into the East End before we hit the south side, and I'd just seen these poor Norwich fans walking up towards St Michael's Chapel at Parkhead Cross at 10 o'clock at night. You know, I hope they made it home all right. You know, I wouldn't walk up there at that time of night.
Yeah.
They're big boys. They would not a tractor with them.
Oh, no,
That's right.
The farmers, Jason. Good old country folk, mate.
The boys in East End, they make a shilling. Come on. It's freedom of trade these days. Come on.
But there's one thing I'd like to do, and we're talking radical thinking. I'd like to loan our entire development squad to Elgin City.
Aye.
That's what I would do. Just say, or even better, Queen's Park. Let them play Hampden every second week, like I've seen some up at Celtic, and let them keep Sevco in there forever. Keep Sevco in the third division forever. Just, you know, for so doing, you know, the younger Twarzek and Marcus Fraser, Tosney, all these guys, and say, like, go in your core, you'll be Celtic legends forever. You keep them doing.
So I mean, like, it's so
I'm not really bothering about them, to be honest.
The biggest competition the Rangers FC would have would be the Diet Celtic squad.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, what I would say to any, you know, the Huns or whatever that listen to this show or might pick it up, whatever, as you seem to always do and follow, you've actually had it quite easy so far. You wait till you get into the third division, and then you have to go to Peterhead and all that in December and all that. That's when the reality will really bite for them.
Oh, they'll sell out the first week.
Yeah.
I've still got my doubts whether they'll play this season.
I was just going to bring that up. I was going to say this. I mean, out of a vote, out of all of us, I mean, who thinks that Rangers will actually be playing football this weekend?
It's 50-50 for me. Like,
Alan McGregor walked away today, didn't he?
He signed for Besiktas today, wasn't it, telly?
So, I mean,
it's a 50-50. I mean, I say to Paul on Tuesday night, I mean, the other thing we've got to look at is logistics. I mean, if you're on a supporters bus, I mean, say there's 50 guys that go to Celtic or Rangers Aberdeen games, you're now looking at going to these third division grounds. Every bus might get 4 tickets. So what are they going to do? Are they going to get 6 guys for Ayr, 6 guys for Kilmarnock, 6 guys for Rugland, all meeting up to Kinjo to go in one bus to Brecon for the day? You know, because I doubt, as Jason says, it's a novelty the first few months, but who's going to go up in November and fill their motor full of petrol? No guarantee they're going to get home.
Yeah.
Right. The other thing about that is that if you look at the fixtures over the years, about December to January, like the third division basically shuts down because the games are always off.
That's right. Yeah.
Pitches are always crap. No facilities. Blah 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 blah. You know, it's anybody. You know, any ex-Huns out there thinking it's going to be a venture. You know, Jesus Christ. Bear Grylls would he take on?
You know what the thing is? The funny thing is, I'm sensing some sort of sympathy from all of us. You know what I mean? Some sort of like, Jesus, I don't envy the bastard having to do that. But I mean, we shouldn't be having that, should we?
No, I've got no sympathy. To be honest,
being honest with you, do you have any sympathy for just the normal punter who's not a bigot and just a normal Rangers fan that liked the football? Do you get any sympathy for them at all, Paul?
Nah.
You don't?
I do, to be honest with you.
I do. I
work with a couple of guys, and they're no the stereotypical Rangers fan at all. And a guy I used to work with as well, he's as big a socialist as you'll get, like any Celtic supporter. And he's totally no into like the follow mentality of Rangers, and he's totally the polar opposite of that. And guys like him, I just feel really sorry for him. You know, my next door neighbour, he's Rangers daft, and his wee laddie comes in and plays with Rory, but he's not a bigot at all, you know, and he just likes the football. He's not into anything. And I do feel sorry for these guys, you know.
I would feel sorry the Rangers playing FIFA this year, Jason.
What's that, mate?
It'll be hard when the Rangers are playing FIFA this year and your wee next door neighbours.
He can't take his boy to the Ibrox because we've got singing Celtic songs and everything.
I mean, I've got a couple of mates that are blue noses, but they married Catholic lassies and they go to chapel. No, that makes a difference, but as you say, Jason, it's your common man, and as Paul says, are they now smelling the coffee that the fact that nobody's done anything to try and save them? They've just all they're trying to save is the 44,000 bigots that go to that stadium. Whether they be transported to Paisley to sing every week or whatever, they're just wanting that poison and the money that goes with it.
I think, sorry Paul, I think, see, the biggest thing for me is they have got no cohesion with each other. There's so many different pockets of them, because they have got normal fans that don't want anything to do with Billy the Bigots. They've got Billy the Bigots that want even bigger Billy the Bigots involved. They've got maybe guys that really don't know the history of the club and that, just like it as a football thing. It was like something today, just like we've got a load of supporters like that. No, the guys, your golf club mentality guys that just like going to the football. So they've not really got anything in common with the Billy the Bigots. They've not really got anything in common with the diehards that weren't into that, because they weren't the diehards. So I think they've got so many pockets that didn't sort of sing for the same hymn sheet, and hence they weren't into the same thing. Whereas when Celtic were going down the grubber, we were all. Do you know what I mean? Everybody was like against the board, apart from a couple of old diehards. But
I totally agree that there's the golf club types, there's the right ultra bigots, that kind of thing. But I tell you, the one thing that ties all of them together is the feeling of superiority that is always emanated to Rangers Football Club. And that's why. That's kind of why when people, everybody, he's a good guy, this kind of thing. And then you go to Ibrox and you see 45,000 of them screaming about being up to knees in Fenian blood, and you
I don't even go to the place. You know what I mean?
But that's the thing, and I think that, I just think that, look, if this was my football club, I wouldn't give a fuck if I ended up deed. I would be screaming to the rooftops if something had to change. There was never any of that. The people that they have put up as their kind of intellectual huns on the telly in Scotland Tonight and all that kind of thing are tweeting non-stop about child abuse and all that, And that's the guys that they're putting in front of cameras. So, to me, if it's me and you, Jason, and we're seeing somebody that we know in front of a camera, and then they're going on about all this nonsense off camera, you'd pull them aside and say, "What the fuck is your problem?" You know what I mean? You'd realise you're representing Celtic here, blah blah blah. And yet these guys are put on pedestals, no naming any names. We've all seen them on the telly and all that kind of thing, and they run the biggest websites and all that sort of thing. And until they actually get that they are doing more damage than anything before, along with their manager, I have to say, then nobody will feel sorry for them. I mean, that's what's happening.
No, I don't feel sorry for the entity that's Rangers, none whatsoever. But there's guys out there that aren't like that. They've got a massive support, and you enjoyed the rivalry, but what happened had to happen. I'm not a Rangers apologist whatsoever. I'm laughing my head off at them. Do you know what I mean? But it's just there's a human element to some of them, and it's like I just because it's a massive. Try to put yourself in their position, because see, right, here's the thing. Say Fergus McCann didn't come along, right? For all the great work Matt McGlone and all that done, and it was absolutely amazing, all the Celtics for Change stuff. I was part of it myself. Obviously not as big a part as them, but I was at boycotting and that in '94 and stuff like that. And say Fergus McCann didn't come along, what would have happened to us?
We're gone.
Aye.
Do you know what I mean?
We went with a fight. They just went with
No, but you're right. I totally get that, and I agree with you. They've got a different mentality, and they have got the superiority complex. But say we had a Charles Green type character, a Craig White type character, stepped in instead of Fergus McCann, and say they had a Fergus McCann type character came to them. Say David Murray bought Celtic, and we were signing all these players. Would any of us complained? We wouldn't have.
But when you say that, Jason, you look at how they ridiculed the guy who saved Glasgow Celtic Football Club, Fergus McCann.
No, I'm not. Forget, see the lowest common denominator support. I'm not going on about that at all. What I'm saying is,
you're playing devil's advocate, Jason. Right?
Say David Murray took our Celtic. But you're not saying there's no Celtic fan in the 90s, the late 80s and early 90s wouldn't have swapped places with him and to David Murray running our club.
100%, mate. But the only thing that I'll play the devil's advocate, you imagine in 50 years, I'd propose a statue of Graham Souness in Glasgow because he signed Catholics, he destroyed Rangers Football Club, and they get rid of the Kellys for me.
It's no, obviously, he didn't do it deliberately.
It wasn't his plan.
But see if David Murray had took our Celtic. We all say we would have done this, we would have done that. What would we have really?
But of course, see, we thought that was legit, though. That was legit. But the thing about it is that Celtic. See, I don't think it could have happened at Celtic. I don't think that could happen because Celtic, we're no. Our psyche was now a triumphalist Tory type guy to run Celtic and kind of like give it off, and Yahoo, we're going to be this, that, and next thing. I also think that if you look at the people that were into Celtic when Fergus was there, you're talking about guys like Willie Haughey, Gerard Weisfeld, they've got no stains on their character whatsoever since then at all. So they were all into the best intentions, you know. Well, I sat at a meeting about 6 months before Fergus took over, and Willie Haughey was sitting there with John Keane, and Willie Haughey said himself, he says, I didn't want to get into this fight, but I'm certainly not going to let Celtic go down the tube, you know.
Aye.
Because he understood, and his argument reason he didn't want to get in the fight was he knew what it meant for his family and all that, you know, and all the hassle you'd get and the spotlight and all that kind of thing. Willie Haughey could buy Celtic tomorrow, no problem whatsoever, but again, he'll no do it. But you could be damn sure if we were going down the tubes, he would stop them doing that. And that's what Rangers never had. They never had a one guy who was just like, I don't give a fuck what it costs, I'll stop this happening.
I totally get that, and you know, but I just think for the normal punter on the street like us, well, let's face it, we would go to demonstration, we would do everything and that, but at the end of the day, we couldn't save Celtic. You know, we would need somebody to save them for us. And I think that, but for their point of view, they didn't radicalise themselves the way we were. They're no built to that. You mentioned that point. I totally agree with that. You know, they don't. You know, they haven't got the rebel bit in them like we have.
Yeah, but I mean, Celtic's born out of activism.
Yeah, you're right, Joe.
I mean, so, and they don't have that. They're born out of prestige.
Well, we're used to getting shafted by the establishment for over and over again, and we kind of take a cynical approach to anybody in authority. It's what we've all been kind of brought up with. You know, if you're Catholic growing up in the west of Scotland and you're the age of Jason Stevens, something like that, then there's at some points in your life, your family's been fucked over because you were Catholics.
Big time.
Any other reason. And if your father, like Jason's father was and stuff, who kind of switched onto that, he's going to let his family know that, and you're going to have that inside you, you know. And then as you get older, you're going to realise, you know what? The one thing we were denied in this country was opportunity, you know. Was that our people were, whatever they achieved in Scotland was done because of who they were, not because of what they were party, you know. And that's what Rangers and their establishment have always had. They've always had their wee secret societies and they'll leg up the ladder for the establishment and all that kind of thing. And that's why I think Celtic fans saved the club, because we've always had to fight for everything we've got.
Well, I think that if you're a Rangers fan, this is your first. Definitely, Paul. Well, very well said. This is your first. This is your first taste of adversity. You know what I mean?
Aye. They're actually saying they're rebels now. Well, they go back and actually say they get rid of Franco's troops in Barcelona in '72. You know, that was their reason for rioting, because they were against fascism. That's a bit of revisionary tactics they use. see, in 50-year time, Manchester will be in some war to cleanse Manchester for oppressive police force or something like that. You know, they'll rewrite history.
But when you say that, I mean, you had the big fat one that was on Sky, and he was mentioning the word Holocaust.
Oh yeah, Mark Dingwall.
Aye, the whole Dingwall. But what you were saying, Jason, I mean, obviously, Celtic's probably been run cash and carry like up to '94, and probably Lovell's got it back to that state now. But me and my old man worked for the Marlborough, Lawrence Marlborough's building group, who owned Rangers, and basically that guy was forced to take the club over through subversive societies. He'd probably Scotland's best building firm, and was told, you've got to take Rangers over because it's in trouble. And Murray obviously got knocked back for buying Ayr United, stepped in there, hasn't spent a penny, had 20 years of wine and song, and then passed the buck over.
And made £6 million as well in an ABT. You know what I mean? I think it's the thing that what Jason's saying about the mentality. I mean, I'm sure all of us here, certainly Joe, I've walked down streets in Belfast and seen, from one end of the street to the other, Israeli flags. And then, so Rangers go over and Nazis salute in Israel. You know what I mean? That's the mentality that they have. They just didn't understand it. Celtic supporters, as you say, it's a rebellion, it's born out of famine and oppression, you're expecting to get fucked, you're kind of cynical about everything. But at the end of the day, one of the things that we've actually managed to use to get through all that was humour and song.
This is it, Paul and Matt. My exact point was, I hardly missed a game like yourself, home and away, when they done their 9 in a row. And our song of that era was always looking the bright side of life, right? Their song is some child abuse thing or some famine number.
Yeah.
So
that's like, I mean, these kind of songs, Big Jock New, the so-called famine song, were amped up more than ever when Celtic was winning 3 league championships in a row. You know, that was their answer. Mere hatred, mere kind of aggression towards us. With us, it was kind of like, you know.
And to the Rangers fans that revelled in all that kind of stuff, I'm laughing at them big time. But there is a compassionate element in me that the normal Rangers fan, I just feel sorry for.
Well, I tell you what, here,
Jason have taken the road to Damascus over the summer.
Hallelujah.
Oh, sorry.
I tell you what, no, here.
I remember standing at Tynecastle in 1991 at half time dancing to fucking jive bunny.
Come on, everybody!
You know?
I tell you what, I see where you're coming from, Jason. I mean, I do feel sorry for the regular Rangers fan. Like, this the average guy just likes football and likes bringing his wee lads to the game. But I also did something very vindictive this week. I Facebooked the guy I used to work with, a Rangers fan. I'm getting echo here.
I get a big echo, mate.
I'm getting a big echo. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Right, 4 times.
Anyway, I Facebooked him.
I think it's coming off of Paul Walker.
And I found him. And I set up a fake Facebook account.
Aye, it's Paul.
Paul's it you?
You, mate.
I'm not saying anything.
No, but when you talk, it's all right. But see, when Joe talks, it's like your thing keeps flashing. Don't know. You there, Joe? Still?
I'm still here. Aye.
That's better now.
Alright, dead on. It'll come and go. But anyway, so I Facebooked this guy and I found him. I used to work with him in shorts. He was a big pun. But I would be nice to him. He'd always try and wind me up, but I'd be nice to him. He'd bring in his Rangers programs, and I'd stand there and read them out of interest. I wanted to spy. And so I found him, and I Facebooked him from a false account. I just wrote, this is Joe McKenna. I used to work with you in shorts. I fucking wish I still work with you now, you orange bastard. Enjoy the 3rd division. It was just one of those moments. I was like, this is an opportunity to get him back. He used to torture me in work, and I got my own back. But I get where you're coming from, Jason. I definitely do. I feel sorry for, like, my cousin in Glasgow is married a Rangers fan. They bring their wee lad to Ibrox, you know, and they're not bigots, you know. They're nice folk.
Aye.
And now they got nowhere to go. But I tell you what, see now there's no football, and see if there is no football at Ibrox next season, which looks, in fairness, quite likely right now. What's Glasgow going to be like on a Saturday afternoon? It'll be like fucking the end of Planet of the Apes, won't it?
Oh, you're telling me it's not the best city to walk about the new, mate. I'm going to get a bet on Monday that if they don't play next season, Scotland will produce the next Tiger Woods in the next 20 years. As Paul Larkin says, the golf courses are going to be full, aren't they?
Mm-hmm. Aye, they've definitely got the Volvo Pringle mob. there's plenty of them there. Aye. Can I just change the subject a wee bit there? And it was Harper reminded us, but obviously we didn't need much reminding that Celtic lost a legend this week as well. And obviously we need to talk about the late great Joe McBride.
Yes.
And I reckon we lost 2 legends as well. And
you're right.
Obviously the HomeBhoys as well. Bobby Hughes, and obviously he was made famous with Celtic Minded and his post, and with the song that your good self Joe wrote for him. And I think we maybe just cover this for a wee bit, guys. Would
Absolutely.
you any stories about Joe McBride?
You're totally right, Jason. Thank you very much for bringing that up, because I didn't have that on my list because I'm an idiot. Paul or Stephen, you just want to throw in there with a...
Well, Joe, I mean, I've met Joe McBride 2 times. Joe McBride, first of all, he was the guy that if you wanted to speak to Lisbon Lions, you wanted him to come to dances, you phone Joe McBride and Joe would phone him and he would get it sorted out. We were talking earlier on about how Neil Lennon's one of these guys still understands Celtic. Joe ate, slept and breathed Celtic Football Club, you know.
Yep.
An absolute, you know, talking about goal scorers, I mean, there weren't many better than Joe McBride. Of course, till his dying day, he regretted the fact that he never actually scored against Rangers for Celtic, you know, despite the fact that he scored 35 goals in the Lisbon season, only played till December, would have definitely been playing in the final against Inter Milan. And
He
just
was the top goal scorer in Scotland that season, wasn't he?
Yes, despite the fact he was injured in December. So that's Joe McBride for you. And I don't think, many occasions we went to Vegas and other conventions in America and Canada, Donegal, everywhere you went, Joe McBride was there. And, he was a great man. He lost his wife tragically a few years ago. And it got to him a lot, but he never had a smile off his face, and he'll be sadly missed by the Celtic family, that's for sure.
Yeah. Played with Celtic 55 times and scored 54 goals.
That's it.
There you go.
You don't get much better than that. I met the guy on several occasions at loads of do's and stuff like that, and a nicer guy you couldn't have met. He bled green and white. He was born in Goventry, born in just the shadows of Ibrox.
Yeah.
And just a lovely human being, and just a guy who was just, and even to his later days there, when you were in, if you ever get lucky enough to get in some of the VIP bits at Celtic, if you get wined and dined or that, he was always one of the guys that was there meeting and greeting you, and you couldn't get a better guy to sit and get a blather with. And I was privileged, we flew out to Seville. We flew to Seville the day before the game, and we stayed in Jerez, same place as the team, and we were on the same flight as a load of the Lisbon Lions, and sitting with Joe McBride in the airport on the way out there, taking the piss out of Big Gemo and stuff like that. And then my dad played in the same team as Gemo when they were kids, and my dad was always one for the wind-ups and everything like that, and him and McBride were giving it to Big Gemo, and I just get, all I can think of Joe McBride when I think his face is a big smile. Mm-hmm. And just a Celtic legend, and sadly missed in the Celtic circuit, without a shadow of a doubt.
He's probably, apart from the famous Hibs 5, he's one of the few players that stood out. I mean, when he was at Motherwell, my late father was a bit of a purist. He said with the few players before the battle, even if they didn't play for Celtic, Joe McBride at Motherwell and Ian St John at Motherwell, you never seen Lawler went straight to England, but that was the standard of striker, my old man said, and then he went to Celtic, unfortunately had his injury before Lisbon sort of thing, but these guys are homegrown players, as you guys were saying earlier on. Paul was saying that about the scouting system and all that. It's about getting these guys out in the street. I know the Xbox brigade and the PlayStation brigade, but there's natural talent out there that just gets brushed aside, you know what I mean?
Stephen, they've got Xboxes in Spain, you know what I mean?
Definitely, James. 100%, mate. But it's people that relate to the club. As Paul said earlier, we met my Mad Challenge Tuesday night. Guys like Johnny Bedoyle, Tommy Burns got addressed him, and guys like that who knew what it was about putting the strip on, sort of thing,
Aye, no, as I say, Joe McBride, for every team, Motherwell he played for Motherwell in the early 60s to about the mid 60s, and he scored he scored 50 odd goals for them as well, and about 80 odd appearances. And when he played with Hibs, I think he scored nearly 50 goals for Hibs, and about the same period it was with Celtic, So everywhere he went, he put the ball in the net. Yeah. Legend.
I mean, the standard of pitch and footwear in football they were actually playing me, and as a striker, like a goalkeeper, getting walloped about an elbow and stuff like that, and the protection they get in this league these days, it'd probably be about 60 goals a season, sort of thing,
We're talking about the Celtic family. I think it'd be appropriate for Jason to mention Bobby Hughes.
Yeah, go ahead, Jason.
Aye, no, definitely, and Bobby was a guy, mentioned it in the podcast, the Mets boys, but obviously we've got our own Joe McKenna here that wrote the song A Bhoy, and Bobby Hughes wrote an iconic post on the website that I post on, Celtic Minded, and he wrote it about a month ago, but it'd been about a month ago, and just to say I've been to see the doctor and I'll be going to meet my maker soon, or whatever. And I'm just clicking on the post and you're reading it, you're like, oh, bloody hell, the guy says the doctors just gave him a cancer's terminal, it's spread, whatever. So in the course of the last month, well, it was a few days after that, all the guys in Celtic Minded, we all started chipping in, and there was loads of raffle prizes getting put up, and a special thanks go to Big Messy, guy Derek for the board, Trinder, he's one of the leading lights in the Green Brigade, and various other guys in the board, and Matt McGlone as well. For arranging the visit for Neil Lennon went down to visit Bobby in the hospital, and he got home last week, but then we get the sad news that he'd passed away a few days ago. So this was a guy, 64 years old, he was too young to die, but he went out with a bang, and his humour and everything on that set. And I know yourself, Joe, you were particularly affected when you read his posts and stuff like that, weren't you?
I was sitting last Friday night, and I was just, reading through the posts, and it just totally, it really, it's one of those things. It'll wake you up. You know what I mean? It really will. If when you not that even I was that close to the guy or knew him that well. It was just one of those things. You just feel connected, and you realise this guy. He saw the end coming, and he was like, and all he wanted to do was thank people. You know what I mean? He wanted to say thank you.
He come on thanking Celtic Minded for making his past few months bearable, and so they could just do a bit of escapism, just get on, blather about Celtic with all us. And quite a few guys took the bull by the horns and says, no, we want to do something for this guy. So Celtic Minded, we all chipped in and whatever, and we raised £4,500 for Bobby Hughes. So we didn't, one of the guys, Big Derek, didn't present him with a cheque, and the type of guy he was, he gave the vast majority to York Hill Hospital for sick kids, and I think he gave the rest away to charity as well, didn't keep any of it for himself. Mm-hmm. And we were giving him the $4,500 just to do what he wanted with it. No, make it last couple of weeks, do something you always wanted to do. But no, I had no interest in that. So we then spoke to Joe, and Joe wrote a song called A Bhoy. And can you play out of that tonight,
Joe? I'll play
out
of it tonight, I sort of will.
Aye, so Joe wrote a song called A Bhoy, and it's available on iTunes. And if you just search on iTunes, BHOY, A Bhoy, and all the money raised for this song, the song's dedicated to Bobby Hughes, and all the money raised for this song goes to Bobby's nominated charity, which is York Hill Hospital for sick kids. So
it's a fantastic song as well.
Thank you very much.
An absolutely brilliant song. I've listened to it. I can tell you every word there. It's a brilliant song, mate. You're a talented man.
It's I was very sad to hear Bobby's passing. I was really, it's one of those things that it really hammers home to you what it is about being a Celtic supporter. You know what I mean? That it's not just football, it's people.
Do you know what I'll do, right? Do you want me to read out Bobby's post?
Go ahead.
Right. So Bobby wrote on to Celtic Minded, and his header was, "I'll soon be off to meet my maker." Right? That's what he says. And you click into all these threads and you're like, what's this saying? So come back in it, and it just says, got some results back last week, and both lungs are shot away and the brain as well. Was given 5 to 6 weeks, so I'm getting myself ready. I've only been in Celtic Minded for a short while, but it's been an absolute pleasure being around all of you. I've had my daily fix of happiness, sadness, despair, and downright hilarity each and every single time I've logged on. I'm an easygoing kind of cunt, and this place suits me down to the ground. I hate getting too bogged down in shit, so anything serious I've avoided, in brackets, apart from the Hun demise, of course. Says, I'm so proud to be a Tim and part of the Celtic family that it fucking hurts sometimes to be so proud of the people who follow Celtic, whether they can go to games or not. I can never forget the last game of last season when Tim showed the world what they were all about while the title slipped away from us. That was a day to remember. I'm so happy I witnessed it, and this season's title. Chucky Arla, and then says, I'll be around until they peel my fingers off the mouse. So that was Bobby's post. And let me see how many people replied to it. Don't know if I can tell for that. Can you tell, Joe, how many people replied to that?
It was very big. All I can go by is pages. But it ran and ran and ran.
Aye, it was. Give me a second. I'll just click on the last page. So the last page, there was 611 replies to it. And a lot of them were within the next hour or something. Yeah. So see, once the guy wrote it, everybody was like, bloody hell, did he just write that? And everybody said, are you okay, mate? And the guy's like, I'm bang on. No, the guy's like, as long as I outlive them. And his humour was unbelievable. And when Neil Lennon walked into the hospital to meet him, Bobby went, Jesus Christ. And Neil Lennon says, not quite, just me, Bobby. But, and to Neil's credit, Matt McGlone, he was, Derek was badger Matt McGlone arranged for Neil to get down, and Neil stayed for an hour, and Bobby's like, I couldn't believe he just sat there and spoke away for an hour. He thought he'd have something to do, but Neil just stayed there for an hour. That's the type of guy he is. And Bobby was just a normal Celtic supporter that touched all our hearts with that post.
Definitely. I mean, it is. It's, even you talk about it there, Jason, you just feel shivers. You know what I mean? Just going, what a brilliant way to go. You know what I mean? With people, with friends around you, with the guy you respect that much coming to visit you, and I mean that's Jim will fix it stuff. You know what I mean?
I know, and it just shows how the Celtic family can rally around and need one of their own. And he didn't ask for anything. He didn't ask for nothing. You know, he just put a post up there, and it was Big Messi's. He's a massive collector of Celtic memorabilia, so he started the ball rolling, and he put a thing up. Right, I'm going to auction this, and all the funds are going to Bobby. And I've nobody even asked any questions. It was just everybody just started. So he set up a PayPal account. Next thing, there was thousands of pounds getting chucked in there. Nobody even knew Bobby, you know. And it was just, you're like, just for one of your own. Aye, of course we'll do it. And just the things that, and then Mince that runs the Celtic Minded website. Bobby was in the hospital when he didn't have a laptop. Mince is like, find out where he is, phone that hospital. We'll get him an iPad the now. I'll buy it for him the now, and we'll drop it off to him. You know, and luckily Bobby got out the next night or whatever, and he spent a few nights at home. But it just shows you what the Celtic community can do for one of their own. And humbling experiences. And then all the crap you're reading in the paper about the aim, about they're going to do this to that, they'll not forget, whoever. Give me peace, do you know what I mean? We're Celtic, and this is all we should be worrying about.
Fantastic. And I tell you what, rest in peace, Bobby. God bless you.
Aye. Exactly.
Speaking of,
there's another thing we've got to mention about Kyle White.
I was just about to bring that up. Paul, far ahead.
Well, it's just that people aren't aware of the fact that there's a young Celtic supporter followed Celtic in Amsterdam, and he collapsed just there. He's only 20-year-old, and so his mother and stuff had to go out there, and you know, he was in a coma and stuff like that. And his friends for the Grampian Emerald CAC have started an appeal to kind of cover costs and all that kind of thing and help in any way. And it's run by a guy called Alan Donaldson on Twitter, which is at Alan L Donaldson. He set up a PayPal account, and you can make donations, big or small, to Donaldson1986 at gmail.com.
It's A Donaldson, Paul. A Donaldson at 1986 at gmail.com. So it's A before Donaldson.
I have it here. It's A Donaldson. You're right, Jason.
Sorry, that's the wrong information. And of course, the guy at the minute is supported by a life support machine, and he's anemic, and he's previously had bone marrow transplant, so he's obviously got a long fight ahead of him. So, you know, obviously, if any members of the Celtic family can help out in any shape or form, I'm sure they would always be very grateful, and obviously Kyle will be in our thoughts and prayers until he gets better.
Definitely, Kyle, definitely. Hope he pulls through, definitely. Just blows me away, sometimes the kindness of people involved with Celtic.
Aye, and it's like Bobby's posts and stuff like that. I mean, it gets you, you know, it's like a real sad thing, but it's very uplifting at the same time. And you just think, you hope you've got the courage that he's got. I lost my dad to cancer last year, and terrible time in the family and whatever. And then my dad was 67, Bobby was 64. And sorry, I know what he was going through, but everybody's unique, everybody's got their own experience. You know, you can't say, well, I've dealt with this, so I know what you're going through. Nobody knows what MD's going through. But the guy, the way he faced it, and with the humour, and you know, because he actually, I was burst out laughing. You know, people are actually taking the piss out of him in some of his threads because he was coming out with that random mad stuff, and it was really funny. And he says that the doctor, the appointment with the doctor, and he was going home. The doctor says, "I'll see you in six weeks," and his reply to the doctor was, "Any chance you can make that 6 months?" You know, and it was just, but. And it was actually on, see when they say the doctor says, "I'll see you in 6 weeks," he'd originally come on that said in that post about 5 weeks. So this was 2 weeks later, the doctor says, "I'll see you in 6 weeks." He was on sort of apologised to us for giving us duff information at the start.
I'm sorry, I'm not dead yet.
Sorry, I might be hanging about for another couple of weeks extra. You know, that was like the humour of the guy. You know, it was brilliant.
Fantastic. Just a few more things to read out here that Harper has sent me as well as we wrap this up. It's another, where is it now? It's gone. I've got a Blackpool convention to promote here. Details as follows: the Celtic Blackpool convention. The dates are 21st to 23rd of September. Gigs are night only. I imagine that means the bands. We're pleased that the following bands: the Ryans playing Friday and Sunday. The Wakes and the Amadons are playing Saturday night. Tickets are £6. Doesn't say where this is, though, in fairness. And Friday at 12 at Saturday. Tickets, details of ticket outlets will be issues. Celtic Convention on Twitter. At Celtic Convention on Twitter is where all the information can be found. And please note, there you go. In support of Stilian Petrov, Celtic Convention will be donating funds to Stilian Petrov, Pedal for Petrov charity setup on Aston Villa as well. So any money you give is going to be donated to the Stilian Petrov charity, Pedal for Petrov. Mm-hmm. So get the Blackpool 21st, 23rd. I mentioned to my wife and she almost jumped out of her seat. I mentioned Vegas last year and she was like, not really. Mentioned Blackpool, she went nuts. I was like, this woman must love Panto. Or fucking donkeys, I don't know.
I used to love it when I was a kid, Blackpool, but no, it's not the same.
I don't know. I think she's got some sort of weak nostalgia going on in the back of her head for Blackpool. But anyway, there's a Blackpool convention that's promoted, and there's another thing to be promoted for us personally, which is the new. We have been chosen. Here you go. It says how big we are, lads. Oh, you bastard! This mouse is gone again. I can't get through to this email, motherfucker. Sorry, give me a second. I'm riffing here. Hello.
just an aside issue. Harper's pointed this out to me, and it's totally true. That see, Irish people, every third word out their gub's a swear word.
Oh, but see what it is. See, my wife asks me this all the time, right? She says, "Why do you swear so much?" And you know what it is. I suffer from a very, very bad stammer. I always have all my life since I was a kid. When I was a kid, I could barely speak. So what I living in the Falls Road, what I learned to do was, just fill in the stutters with fuck, cunt, bastard, shit, prick, motherfucker. You know what I mean? I tell you what, it's working a fucking treat.
You've been a good altar boy, Joe.
Fuck.
A guy once told me that the Irish had replaced the word very with the word fuck.
That's your fair point. My mate's in Lurgan. Every third or fourth word of theirs is cursed.
I tell you what, speaking of
doesn't seem bad,
No, it doesn't.
Just natural.
Listen, I'm astounded people get offended anymore. You know what I mean? I just am. I just don't get it. But I tell you, one of the best jokes I heard recently, speaking of swear words, is what do you see, man? Will I Am, the guy that was on that fucking voice program.
Mm-hmm.
What do you call Will I Am's brother? Will I fuck? Will I fuck? I thought that was brilliant.
When we're on about charities, lads, can I just apologise for my earlier slip mentioning occupied 6 counties in the north there? I'll be donating a fiver to the last time maybe Paul would Tuesday night at the match. I think he's doing a bungee jump or something on Sunday. So,
but see, I tell you what, Stephen, the best way to get away with that, right, is to put on a Belfast accent and just say Northern.
I actually worked there briefly, Joe, and I had to walk about in an office coat with a goatee beard, mate, and I can't go any bum fluff being half a Polack, but that's another story. But I do apologise for anybody I did upset. I'll be putting a fiver to Joe and say, sorry, Paul and Saturday.
Is this you just clocked on what I said to you there about
I've had that for you. I'm doing it on my phone.
I tell you what you do.
I knew I'd said something wrong. That was the exact words for the boy. That's how I went when he was telling me the story. He had he had 6-year-old twins who both had the away tap, and I've got a new home tap on, and the boy went, that guy's got the home tap, how can we not get it? And the guy's looking at me and I went, that poor bastard's tried 3 season tickets here, and he's looking for drains, I'm looking for another tap, and the wee boy went, Mister, I've got £600 in the bank, I can buy my own fucking strip. And I went, mate, you could have bought Rangers, you know that, didn't you? And he went, I didn't think of that big, and I slipped away and left the guy to it. But he did mention the occupied counties in the illegal form, so I do apologise. I'll give Paul a fiver for the last day in the jumping.
I tell you what, Stephen, I have the perfect way for you to redeem yourself, right? What I want you to do is go to Brecon and buy a ticket for the match at the weekend, right? And then see when we do the live HomeBhoys show from the Raddies in Belfast September, we'll raffle it off.
Would you want me to do? Sorry, would you want me to do?
Go and buy a ticket for the Brecon Rangers match, and then we'll raffle it off in the Raddies Club in Belfast in September.
I'm sitting beside my brother this season, Paul, who I said to him, he's a Glasgow taxi driver. He went dressed as the Pope down to Troon, and he had a water gun driving down Troon Main Street doing drive-bys, and all the locals telling him it was holy water in his water gun, which didn't go down too well. So I'm sitting beside Paul this season, and he hates Paddy McCourt, he hates Samaras, he hates them all. So I'm going to thank God he's bigger than me. He's going to be rolling about with the Green Brigade probably, but I'm in for the season of my life.
Alright, here we'll get this last shout out and we'll wrap this up. We have been chosen, the HomeBhoy, Hail Media has been chosen, HomeBhoys. This is an email from Spreaker, I think. Hi, starting today, we've enabled a new feature. I don't know why I sound like I'm fucking doing an ad.
It's going to be good, Joe, because the build-up's been unbelievable.
I tell you. I'll put on my... hi! Starting today, we've enabled a new feature that will allow your audience to listen to your latest episode of your podcast, either live or pre-recorded, simply by calling a landline number from your phone. From my phone? Fuck my phone.
What?
We are testing this feature on a limited number of shows, and your show, Hail Hail Media, has been selected as one of the first. The number to call is... I imagine it's an American number, okay? 619-550-0516. And your listeners will then hear a voice asking for a station number. Our station number is 7. And then our latest show will start playing on the telephone. Now, if you have enough money to call Thai sex lines, you can call this Spreaker number and listen to our show for 2 hours. So, there you go.
Yeah.
That's all the shout-outs we have. Listen, lads, my wife's...
No, wait a minute. I've got one.
Go ahead. Sorry, Paul. Go ahead.
It's Albert Doogie Wimps, limited edition, 100 copies only. It's out on Tuesday, available for Lulu, Kindle. And we've got a book launch coming on the Saturday, September the 1st. Blackfriars Glasgow. We'll have the usual shenanigans, and we might have a wee few. It's a wee bit longer this time. Bands, music,
What date's up? What date's up, Paul?
Saturday, 1st of September.
1st September, and that's Albert Women Doogie?
Albert Doogie and Wim. The book's out on the July 31st, and the book launches September the 1st. As I say, it's a limited edition, hoping to make it a tiny bit of a collector's item. There'll only be about 20 copies available on the night of the book launch. The rest of them you'll just need to buy on Lulu and Kindles and all that kind of stuff. Hoping to have a few celebrities here. Jason's already agreed, that should guarantee about 100.
And dude.
And we will be hoping that Jason will only be as drunk as the last time. So.
Well, he's
not even committed to that. You see,
that's certainty I won't be as drunk as the last time. You've got to realise we met in the town at 9 in the morning. On the Swallow at 9 in the morning, and it was about 7 in the evening by the time we introduced the troops on the stage.
Yeah.
So that was heavy. And Celtic had won the league that day, so I won't be drunk as
Joe, you have to understand that. The reason that Jason was picked as an MP as an MC was because he's kind of charm and decorum. And when he, asked the audience to be quiet, I think he said, "Shut the fuck up, we're trying to run a book launch here." People kind of respected that right away. So, but this time it's on for longer. It's 5 till 10. It's free entry. You're not going to charge anything. Obviously, there are 20 books to sell. There'll be a raffle. There'll hopefully be a Q&A. The Amadans are going to play. Hopefully, get a few celebrities along and people like that you can come and see and get autographs with and all that kind of stuff. And we're just hoping for a great night of internet bandpotry and plenty of internet bandpots to turn up and have a laugh.
Tell you, it's nothing better than being an internet bandpot these days.
Oh, no.
But anyway, Paul, listen, I'm completely jealous of your prolificacy, I swear to God. There must be, your smoke alarms in your house must be going off every day with the fucking fingers of fire. You'd be firing at these words left, right and centre.
Well, this book is it's a combination of Albert, From Albert with Love, Doogie Doogie, Wimps, and it's day books plus there's a new story in it, 15,000 words called Channel and Charlie Mulgrew, which is like a kind of behind the scenes what was going on when the books were being written, and there's loads of people, including people that are on this show right now, that are mentioned in it, and people might see a side of them that they didn't see here on the shows, or they perhaps didn't know about them and all that kind of thing. Which is why I'll probably be running like fuck at the book launch. And there's also a preview of my novel that'll be out next March called The Last Pearl Diver.
I'm looking forward to that.
Say again?
I'm looking forward to that.
Thank you very much. It's, that's set in 1994, and it's a bit of an analogy for something that was going on then and something that went on last year. And so it's 514 pages. As I say, we'll have 20 copies here on the night. If you buy a copy in the meantime and want to bring it along, that's fine, to get it signed or whatever, that's fine. But I think it'll be a slightly more sedate night than it was the last time. But, I think it'll be bandpots are plenty, and I think it'll be a great Celtic night.
Fair play to you, Paul. Listen, I love reading your stuff. I'm glad somebody's charting the narrative right now, because we're living in history, I think.
Yeah.
So, and I think what you're doing is right on the money. Brilliant. And I'm looking forward to the last Pearl Diver because that's your first sort of non-Celtic book, is it?
Yeah, I mean, there'll be heavily Celtic influence. In fact, I've got another book coming out in mid to end November, and that'll be the last Celtic book I'll do for about a year. Because I want to take a wee break for it, and I don't want to be sort of satirising folk and all that, because I know full well that you write about certain subjects and there's other guys saying, fuck, I wish I was going to write about that and all that kind of thing, and it's not fair to kind of keep doing that. So, which is why the book after this, because this book's not really a book, it's just 100 copies, boom, done. The next book will be charting the last 4 years, what's happened from August 08 to June 2012. And that'll be a kind of sort of celebration of people like us and bandpots all over the Celtic universe, you know.
Brilliant. Lads, there's no better way to wrap this up. This has been a good show. Thank you very much for being online with me. Thank you very much for calling in. Josh, Stephen, are you still there?
Aye. Cheers, guys. I'll see you Saturday, Paul. Melbourne's Twitter on for me at 12:30. Bring your list, we'll fill up.
Oh, just a quick shout out to a mate of mine, everybody's listening. My mate Tom Devlin, I sent him the link for the... Celtic had a promotion for people who were at the 67 game at the European Cup final, and I sent him a link the day I got it, and luckily enough, him and his father have been chosen to do a lap of honour on Saturday. So, and his father still has his ticket, still holds his dear, and he's going to be delighted to bring his dad now round the pitch on Saturday at half time. So I'm glad that's happening. So fair play to you, Tom. And lads, thank you very much for being online with me. Thank you very much for all the help. It's been a good show. Take care of yourselves. We're going to play out tonight with A Bhoy, which can be bought on iTunes. Just search Joe McKenna, iTunes, A Bhoy, as in BHOY, and look it up. Please buy it. All money goes to York Hill Hospital for sick kids. And lads, thank you very much. I'll talk to you later.
Thank you. Cheers, guys.
Bye-bye. Okay, folks. Thank you very much. It has been fun. And here's the song you can buy on iTunes. Please enjoy it.
On a cold grey morn, on a Glasgow street, a young boy in torn clothing has a ball at his feet. He shouts, "Daddy, I'll play for Celtic, I'm gonna be a superstar." He says, "Go out there and get it, son, show the jungle who you are." "Daddy, I'll be a striker, I'll be deadly round the box. I'll win the treble, conquer Europe, and score the winner at Ibrox." He was a boy, and he'd always wanted to be a boy. He was a boy, and he'd always wanted to be a boy. He goes pushing through the turnstiles with the old man by his side. He hears stories of Brother Walford and the day John Thompson died, of Tully and of Johnson and of Caesar and Jock Stein. And being captain in the huddle would always be his childhood dream. But time had moved so quickly and his dreams are way back when. And the old man's seat sits empty. They say he died stop in the 10. He was a boy, and he'd always wanted to be a boy. He was a boy, and he'd always wanted to be a boy. Now his own son stands beside him, and among the sea of green, he shows promise with the football, and he grows to live the dream. Come his granddad's anniversary, he's Captain Derby Day. He issues orders to the huddle, wearing the number of McStay. The crowd, they roar around him as the ball comes to his feet. He drops his shoulder like McCourt, and only the keeper now to beat. He
Runs to the old jungle, his finger pointing to the skies. Pumps his fist towards an old man, and there's tears in both their eyes. Now he's a boy, 'cause he'd always wanted to be a boy. He was a boy. He always wanted to be a boy, like Tommy Burns in the big road. He only wanted to be a boy.